nation's depressed individuals march on the Atlantic Ocean. This is the Onion Week in Review. Secretary of Veterans Affairs Eric Shinseki announced plans this week to improve healthcare for American veterans with a new $500 million state-of-the-art waiting room. The 150,000 square foot complex will reportedly feature a wide selection of magazines, 2 water coolers, and receptionists who will immediately give veterans vague answers about how long they can expect to sit there before receiving inadequate healthcare. And in this week's commentary, a local man finds owning a cat is a great way to meet women who magically appear in your living room. In other news, a new study finds employee morale drastically improves after watching a coworker throw a fit. A wise oracle proclaims to all at a barbecue that he felt a raindrop, and an elderly man is hailed as alert.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
And we're back! Back for the attack? Back in black? Back! Back for more? These are all names of, like, heavy metal songs. No, that's Jackal. I'm a lumberjack now, baby!
Yeah, we were playing lumberjack today in the woods.
Well, so in New Hampshire, it's mid-fall.
It's
So
mid-fall.
people are preparing, if you will, for
Yes.
winter. It's getting cold out, right?
Right.
We've had some 30, 29-degree nights already,
a couple
right?
of them.
So the bugs are dying.
Oh, it's great.
It's my favorite.
I found a mosquito inside the other day.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Did you kill it?
No, I actually didn't.
We had
I
one of
kind
those-
of ran from it.
Did you
It was
capture it and let it free outside?
no, definitely not.
We've got one of those
No.
tennis racket zappers. That's entertainment on Friday night.
Yeah, that is.
I
pretty
actually
fun.
bought a
There's one of those around here somewhere.
I bought a tabletop bug zapper.
What is
for
that?
indoors.
Oh, yeah, I saw
It's got
that.
Like a
two,
pie?
Yeah,
It's
we got
got
one of
two fluorescent tubes in it,
Yeah.
and then it's got a mesh on either side of it. It's just open. It's got a switch on it. You just plug it into a regular outlet, and it attracts the bugs and zaps them. And it makes a big it's a very satisfying
Yeah, the
snapping
zapping
sound.
noise,
Yeah, like
yeah.
"Shapa!" You
Like,
know, I can't even,
that's
I
what you
can't
get,
even
mofo.
imitate it.
Yeah.
But like you'll be in another room and you'll hear it. You're like, ha ha! You feel this like
You ever get a mouse caught in that?
no.
Jeez, that would be
that's
like
gruesome.
No, but I did have a spider build a web right near that thing because the spider's like,
'cause it knew.
Oh, this is where the flies hover around. If I want
That's
to
funny.
catch me some unbarbecued flies or whatever, right?
well done.
Yeah. So anyway, it is Free Talk Live. I guess we should tell the listeners
Right.
the heck they're listening to. Free Talk Live. If you're unfamiliar with our program, visit freetalklive.com. We are a live call-in radio program where you can take control of the airwaves and talk about whatever's on your mind. The telephone number is
603-283-6160.
and you are,
Steve Classic.
and I am,
The captain.
and you are.
I'm Nikki.
All right. I guess that takes care of all. Oh, wait, no, I got to do this.
No. You got to do
I
the
gotta do this
star
other
date.
thing, yeah.
The whole it's
Yeah, come on.
Captain's log.
Take 2, Captain.
Star date 1105-2023. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the authentic Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass Buckshot Esquire, if you will.
Oh, sorry. Was my introduction not good enough?
Well,
It
no,
was
I
just abbreviated.
these are the traditions that I have on Sunday
Right.
where I need to
Yes.
spout the whole thing because it's the only day in which I do that.
Yep.
That's
So-
cool.
You like to create a lot of extra work for yourself.
So
these
sometimes
Sundays.
I do, yes. And then joining me
Steve Classic.
and
Nikki.
all right,
No. It's and Nikki.
But he said and for
You
me.
said and.
all right.
You guys have nulled each other out.
Hey, we have this like it's kind of like when I left the restaurant earlier and I just sort of walked over and like sort of nodded at you
Yeah.
and you sort of like and we
Yep.
did some hand gestures and
Yep.
we knew what
Yeah, you were like,
exactly
coffee.
what each other was saying,
Yeah.
but we didn't utter a word to each other.
Right.
And so we just did that here where I filled in the and she just picked it. It's called
And.
ad-libbing,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah,
when you get your team together and you do this enough, you can do stuff like that.
Okay,
right?
I got you.
It works.
You are the captain.
Am I? Well, when did that happen?
7:06.
I'm trying to remember actually when that happened. Like, There's a story of how I got the name, and I'm trying to remember what year. It had to have been 96.
So this has been
1996.
Yeah.
Long standing.
Yeah, longer than you've been alive, Nikki.
that is longer than I've been alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's when my motorcycle was born, though. One of them.
Your motorcycle was born?
Created,
Born?
whatever.
Birthed.
Birthed.
Is it
Came off the assembly line.
Is it a biocycle or something? Like,
Oh.
not a bicycle, a biocycle.
I don't think they had those back then.
You can, these
It was a
motorcycles.
test tube.
These motorcycles
motorcycle.
Tesla
aren't
tube.
manufactured; they're grown. All right. Yeah. All right. We have things to talk about.
Do we?
Yeah, this one, just the headline alone, is totally a Sunday headline.
It's got
for
a
Free
little
Talk
something
Live.
for everybody in this one. It's a headline.
This from 8newsnow.com. I don't even know. Oh, it's out of Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, Channel 8 News, apparently. It's a CBS affiliate, if that means anything to you. Here's the headline. Local news. Watch. Naked suspect fights Las Vegas police officer, steals patrol vehicle, causes crash, now faces felony charges.
I mean, he'd be perfect for Florida Man games.
Like,
Yeah.
if he got away, this would be an even better story. Right? But sadly he did not.
Selling police cruiser on eBay, that's what got him.
But, I mean, he does seem like he's rehearsing for the official Florida Man games.
I mean,
right?
this is
Yeah, he
right out.
does.
This might even be one of the competitions. He's probably, practicing.
A naked man who got into a fight with a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer and then stole the officer's patrol vehicle and caused a serious crash is facing 4 charges, according to court documents. The incident unfolded Tuesday around 11 p.m. when police received a call regarding a naked man on the road near Blue Diamond Road and Buffalo Drive. According to Metro, Clyde Kabulasan, I'm probably butchering that, but age 29, Clyde got into a fight with responding police officer that involved hitting and punching and was captured on video by Kyle Even, a nearby driver. Even said he saw flashing lights and thought he was pulling up on an accident. Instead, he witnessed a naked man in the road casually walking.
Casual.
So far, so good.
Yeah, it's
right?
hot. It's
No
hot
big
in Las
deal.
Vegas. I mean, come on.
I don't know what Las Vegas laws are about nudity or whatever. I assume they're lax. It's Las Vegas.
It's Las
right?
Vegas.
Yeah,
Anything
you would
goes.
think so. All right, so I'm just guessing. Naked man walking down the road, no big deal, right?
Yep.
Quote, "You've got a cop and a naked dude. I thought he was going to be handcuffed and thrown to the ground," unquote, said Evan during a phone interview. The cop kind of seemed he was like protecting him from somebody coming through and hitting him. That sentence doesn't
That
make any
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
He said what happened next made his jaw drop. The naked man, Clyde, was able to get into the Metro Ford F-150 patrol vehicle and drive away. Now, I have watched this video, and it's useless to play video over the radio, right? It's not going to do any justice. But
Use your imagination, folks.
like the video depicts a fist fight between a fully uniformed cop armed with, his gun and a baton and, whatever else they
Pepper
got,
spray.
right? The utility belt
Taser.
of
Yeah.
the police state, right? Yeah. And so, like, this naked guy just starts throwing fists, and the cop is overtaken easily, right? Like, this guy, you would think this is one of those videos where, like, some guy's on PCP,
Right.
The
Yeah,
cop
that's what
just,
I'm thinking. I'm like, is it meth? Is it
Yeah.
PCP? Because
the
this
cop
is not
just-
a normal thing to do.
cop just folds like a folding chair, right? And so then the guy just jumps, like, the cop left the door open, right, to the patrol truck. It's a Ford F-150 pickup
Yeah.
truck, but it's got police lights and sirens. It kind of looks like a K9 truck or something like that. And so the guy just gets in and, like, puts it in drive. And the cop's, like, trying to, like, get him out or whatever, but the cop's no match for a vehicle, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
he eventually lets go and falls to the ground. And the guy just drives away.
Awesome. He's driving to Florida to get into the Florida Man games.
The gentleman named Even said, "I was just glad the cop didn't get run over. It's like real-life Grand Theft Auto."
I mean, yeah, kind of.
Yeah. That's probably
I
what the
need
naked man
this.
was. Yeah, naked man was thinking that probably.
Isn't he supposed to, like I don't know, like bitch slap a prostitute or something before.
Yeah, I was about to say he's probably going to pick up a prostitute.
Yeah, that's where he's going. You know.
Oh, he needs.
He's going to the strip.
He needs the pimped out vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. All right.
He probably wants a uniform too. He needs something to wear. I don't know.
Yeah, those prostitutes love the uniform.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that.
Really.
I don't know that, but yes.
Police said Kabulasan headed north on Rainbow with police in pursuit for more than 5 miles. Ooh.
Whoa.
Wow, 5 miles. He then crossed the center line, drove into oncoming traffic, ran a red light at Hacienda Avenue, crashing into the passenger side of yet another Ford, this time an Explorer.
Oh, okay.
And injuring the driver and passenger around 11:15 p.m.
Yeah, something really tells me this guy's not sober. I heard this thing once where, like, if somebody's, like, on crack or cocaine, typically they'll, like, stay away from the police. They're like, nah, I'm just kind of, like, you're hyped up, right? But, like, you're kind of trying to chill. It's like, enough to, like, don't go fight the cops. But if you're on meth, they run straight towards the cops, no fear, ready to fight.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
A 34-year-old woman who was driving the Explorer and her 43-year-old male passenger suffered critical injuries and were transported to the University Medical Center's trauma unit, police said. The man told 8 News Now reporter Ryan Matthey that his right body is paralyzed, amongst other complications, after being seated in the passenger seat. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's awful. Oh, that's really bad.
Police took Kabulasan, who also suffered substantial injuries, into custody before he was also transported to the hospital. According to court documents, he's facing 4 charges: robbery, driver disobeying peace officer, and endangering people property. That's 1. I mean, that's 2. Okay, 1, robbery. 2, driver disobeying peace officer and endangering people property. 3, grand larceny of a motor vehicle. And 4, battery on a protected person. That protected person, of course, being the police officer.
Police officer.
Oh, is he, like, black or something, or gay?
He's protected. He's a protected class.
Well, he's blue.
Right, he's blue.
Oh, he's blue.
So he's protected.
Yeah.
Right? It's like...
indemnify and hold harmless.
Qualified immunity.
Qualified immunity.
Yeah, unqualified immunity, I guess. And he's scheduled to make an appearance in court on Thursday, November 2nd. So there you go.
Yeah. Go watch the video after the show.
We'll post a link to this on all of our social media sites so you can have a gander for yourself.
I mean,
what it looks like.
It's really clickbait. Look, it's like watch, all in capital letters. And the next is naked. Watch naked. What?
You're like, naked?
Watch naked. What?
Yeah, like, am I supposed to be
Las
naked
Vegas
while I'm watching
police?
this? Or when I watch this, will somebody else be naked?
Have you guys ever heard of Fed Smoker? He, unfortunately, he has passed away. But he was a gentleman that was making YouTube videos in like around like 2010, I suppose. And he is absolutely totally methed out. And he would go and harass the police. And he would like yell like things at them, like baby rapers and just like completely ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
And the cops would like really, I guess, not be able to do anything, or they wouldn't do anything. And they would just stand there. And he was probably a local dude. Yeah, he was probably a local dude. So they are probably familiar with him.
Right, yeah.
And they're like, we can't really like arrest you because you're not breaking any laws. But
free
like,
speech and all
Right.
that. Right.
Yeah.
But he was videotaping and put it on YouTube.
Yeah, he has like hundreds of videos on YouTube. Most of them have been taken
I
down.
was
So a
gonna say,
lot of
like,
it
he's gotta be...
is it'll be like re-uploads of videos. Like, he has a lot of fans, but he's just absolutely hysterical. He's done like crazy stuff. Like, there was one episode where he ripped out one of his teeth with like pliers.
Whoa.
Like, he just totally not normal. And then there was one episode where he was like in a McDonald's on a date with some random woman, and he's like fighting with like some Hispanic construction workers, like yelling profanities at them and like racial slurs, and like he was definitely not a good person, but extremely entertaining to watch. And I think whenever like somebody kind of harasses the cops, it's just like, you guys spend your entire careers harassing people, so it's kind of funny to see this guy who is just
little payback,
little turnabout. Oh, is a little
But yeah.
policeman's butt hurt? Oh, I'm so sorry. All right, moving along. Our number 2 story tonight. From, of all places, the Huffington Post. Holding in your poo at work is bad for you. A doctor explains why.
I mean, I would think that'd be kind of self-explanatory, right?
Holding your poo at work.
And like that's the best
Like-
place to do it
Right.
because you're getting paid for it.
right. And you're not using
Right?
your septic system at home and using toilet paper.
Yeah.
So it's, you're saving money.
What's the poem? Boss gets $1, I get a dime. That's why I poo on the company time.
Yeah, that's how I feel at least.
Although poo is substituted for a much more vulgar term that I'm not allowed to say on the radio. Like, okay, first of all, like if you gotta go, you should go, right? Like
I really don't understand how people hold that sort of thing in. Like it's kind of
Just
weird,
go
right? Like,
I guess.
I mean, you
unless
can
you're-
just like decide, like, oh, I don't have to go anymore. What do you mean? I mean, if you gotta go, you gotta go.
well, and
If you
there's
don't, you don't.
and there's all sorts of there's like different levels of gotta go.
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess,
that's
right?
true.
Like
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I can feel it coming on, or like you're like your belly gurgles and
You're
like oh, you're
running.
like I gotta go
I gotta go.
right now, right? And there's
Yeah.
all sorts of variations and degrees in between, and then there's phrases like prairie dog in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Dangerous.
Which if you don't know what that means, go look it up. I don't know that I can describe it on radio without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But
Use your imagination.
use your imagination,
Yeah.
right? And so there's all these euphemisms surrounding
Yes.
this kind of thing. At the same time, like, I mean, bathrooms are readily available.
Well, I
in,
mean, I
at
guess it
least
depends on where
the
you work.
Western world, right? You know what I mean?
I knew a woman who was, you know how some people are pee shy? It's like a
Shy
phrase.
bladder.
Yeah, like if somebody's standing in the bathroom with them, or if they're in a public restroom with
What's
like
that-
stalls, they
what's that-
won't be able to
What's
go.
that meme with the guy at the urinal, and then the next guy comes in and stands right next to him?
Yeah.
Even though there's like 17 other
Yeah.
urinals
Yeah.
available.
Like,
You
hey.
gotta- right
Yeah.
next
So
to
that guy's the opposite of pee shy.
Okay. Yeah.
But a woman I know had, the poop version of that, where she like needed to be in her own home, couldn't be at work,
She had a
couldn't be at
shy
the
colon?
yoga. Yeah,
I've
Gotta
never
have the
heard
fan
that.
going.
yeah, like needed, had to have her,
Gotta have
lights,
a candle on.
Yeah,
light some
lights
incense.
dimmed,
Playing Steely Dan.
yep.
Whatever.
all of the things, right?
Steely
And
Dan's
I was just
inappropriate
very-
in this conversation.
I was just very surprised by that. I'm like, oh, really?
So
To me, it's people there's so much like anxiety or like people are really embarrassed by these sort of things.
yeah,
And like it's just like normal.
yeah.
I mean,
I
if your
don't
if your
get the
bathroom at work is like a
embarrassment.
blue box, maybe.
I mean, like
Yeah.
there's something about being classy, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you don't want to be at
You don't want to like stink up the joint, but
yeah.
you
I
know.
mean, like at the same time, like I've crop dusted a group of people on several occasions
On the way to
in
the
my
bathroom.
life, like I mean, like there's a time and a place
Yeah.
where it's funny. But you got to
Not
pick
for
and
them.
choose, right? You can't just be
Yeah.
like, anyway. So yeah, depending on where you work, of course, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people these days working from home, so like,
so
Yeah.
so why is it bad for you, Captain?
crap.
Let the oh crap.
All right, it's about time we eradicate the embarrassment of pooing, especially in the workplace. Bowel movements eliminate unwanted material and toxins from the body and are a result of the digestive process. Regular bowel movements are a sign of a healthy gut. All I can hear is one of my parental units. Have you moved your bowels?
Right. Yeah, I have a stomach ache.
When's the last time
Your
your bowels moved? While every person is different, having a bowel movement daily or several times a week is typical, UCLA Health reports. Considering we all do it, why are people so embarrassed about it? An article published by Vice earlier this year explored the phenomenon. One person told the publication, "Pooing destroys the ego. It strips you bare."
Does it? That's like a very intense way to think about it.
Wow.
I'm like, I think you guys are reading a little too much into this. What do you mean? It's a spiritual experience every time I take a poop. Like,
I mean,
what?
I have been known to when you do it and you feel the relief, you're like, oh God.
Are you meditating
You know?
though?
Wow.
I mean, no, I guess not. No.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's not meditation
Yeah.
at all. Yeah, it's just relief is all it is.
you're not like, I'm humbled. You are. I'm
humbled.
I'm so humbled.
My
I mean,
ego is much better.
It depends on the size of the poo, I guess, right? Sometimes you're like, damn, that came out of me, huh? Well,
now. Yeah,
weird. Who knew?
my son does that with his other friends. Like they'll send pictures back and forth of like, you got to see this, and I'm like, no.
There's
But they do that. They're, teenagers.
There's a pretty great story on Reddit that's been around for, I think, a couple of decades now. It's about the poo knife. So
What is that?
this is a knife that's kept in the bathroom by a family with infamously large bowel movements.
Slice
A
it up.
knife?
So that yeah,
a
it's
ginsu?
actually it's just like, I think it's just like a butter knife, like taped to a stick or something like that.
What?
So like, yeah, when you
Then
get
if
up
you
off
gotta-
the toilet and it's too big to flush, you grab the poo knife out of its
Listen.
designated area and cut it up a little bit, right?
I don't
Wow.
know.
That's
So-
huge. It's going
They
to be
should
huge.
like drink some more water, eat some more fiber, because it shouldn't be like getting stuck.
Well, I mean, maybe they're just large people, right? You know,
Could be, yeah.
toilets have gotten smaller and they use less water and they don't flush as well as they used to
Yeah.
as a
Right, yeah.
result. So, like,
Yeah.
you don't know, right? But
Okay.
like, it's a great story. If you want to be
No, I hate
entertained,
it.
if you want to be entertained, go read. I'm serious. It is one of the greatest stories you will ever read.
On Reddit.
Like,
Yeah.
go get the stick.
Get the butter knife.
Well, and
Get
like
the thing.
it's explained by the author who, that's how they grew up, right? They grew up in the house where that was just a thing.
And then they go to
And
their
so-
friend's house and they're like, "Oh, Jimmy,
You got a
get
knife?
the thing."
Yeah, do you got a poo stick, right?
Get your poo
or
knife.
a poo
Like,
knife or whatever,
what?
right?
Poo knife?
And like,
You
yeah,
got a poo
like,
knife?
I mean, I grew up in Wisconsin, and in every bar in Wisconsin, you can go in and go, cup of dice, and they reach under the bar and hand you a cup, usually bound in leather, with a pad on the bottom, and it's got 5 6-sided dice in it.
Really?
And why would they have this?
Yeah. Why?
Drinking games,
Yeah, gambling.
Oh,
right? Well, gambling,
Yahtzee,
right?
I don't know.
But mostly drinking games.
Drinking
It's
games,
It's
okay.
Wisconsin, right?
Okay.
So
that's pretty cool though. That's cool for the bartenders because they'll make more money.
exactly, right? And so they want
Wow,
to
we should
promote
do that
this.
here.
And then, so the problem is I grew up thinking that was normal.
Yes, and you came here. Or
So then
wherever.
then I leave Wisconsin, and the first bar I go to that's not in Wisconsin, I'm there with some friends, and we want to play some drinking games, right?
You
and
ask for a cup of dice?
I go
They give you a
up
cup
to
of
the,
ice?
I go up to the bartender, and I'm like, yeah, I'll have a whatever, I'll have a shot and a beer, or whatever, and a cup of dice. And he goes, okay, I got your shot, I got your beer. Is that a cup of dice? Is that a drink? I don't know how to make that.
Cup of ice?
Like, and I'm like, no, it's a cup with dice in it, cup of dice. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking. Like, I'm speaking a foreign language to him, right? So, but this is what happens, right? When you grow up with something that's normal to you in your subculture, your area, your tribe, whatever it is, when you go outside of your tribe, all of a sudden it's abnormal.
And Bob's your uncle.
603-283-6160. We will finish up this number 2 story, plus more. It's Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with a roundup of the biggest headlines this past week, a week in which the war in the Middle East intensified. Israel began, then sustained its ground offensive into Gaza, the Palestinian territory led by Hamas, the militant group which killed around 1,400 people in an attack in Israel almost a month ago. Israel's since launched a bombing campaign in the enclave. The health ministry there says the death toll is roughly 10,000. The week ended with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Tel Aviv, his second visit in a matter of weeks, where he pushed for a humanitarian pause to allow additional aid into Gaza. He reiterated that the United States remains in solidarity with Israel, but stressed that more needs to be done to protect civilians.
As Israel conducts its campaign to defeat Hamas, how it does so matters, because it's the right and lawful thing to do. Failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas and other terror groups.
Israel has ruled out a ceasefire unless Hamas releases hundreds of hostages, dozens of whom are abducted children still held in the Strip. More than 1,000 people, including some wounded and many foreign nationals, have managed to cross the border into Egypt after it opened for the first time since the conflict erupted. Displacement globally. Pakistan's started deporting thousands of undocumented migrants, mostly Afghans, after the deadline for voluntary deportation came to an end. Thousands of refugees have already been deported through the border crossing with Afghanistan. The Taliban has condemned the decision and called it inhumane. Priyata Bajabasi reports.
As Pakistan begins the forceful deportation of thousands of Afghans, many of them who have called Pakistan home for decades say they have nothing to go back to. Others say they're terrified to be heading back to a Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. Taliban said the Pakistani government must halt the expulsion of immigrants. Pakistan claims it is acting to protect national security.
In other news, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. had been in court this week, testifying that they had no involvement with documents that a judge ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two brothers, together with their father, former President Donald Trump, are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets in order to secure better loans. Here's Jody Jacobs.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations. Questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. Trump himself is set to testify on Monday, the latest in many court appearances for the former president.
I'm Benji Haya. That was your week in review.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Over there, lumberjack.
I couldn't tell if it was like cat.
Lumbercat?
Or,
that's a chainsaw. The chainsaw. That was the chainsaw.
Is it a chainsaw massacre?
The chainsaw all day today. Chainsaw.
You were chainsaw?
It was chainsaw all day today. Yep.
Well, right. Again, as I began saying at the beginning of the first segment, folks in New Hampshire and other places where it's starting to get cold are prepping for winter.
Yeah.
And around these parts, lots of folks heating with wood stoves.
It was beautiful today. 50 degrees, T-shirt, chopping wood. It was great.
So folks are prepping, and so within that, Steve Classic and I we were reminiscing about an ancient band from, what was it, 92?
91, 92.
Yeah, called Jackal. They have a song called the Lumberjack Song, and it features a chainsaw solo. Where a guitar solo
it's
awesome.
Would be. It's awesome. Yeah. They sound like AC/DC.
They do.
If AC/DC had a song, like
a bit heavier AC/DC, but not much. Right?
But I mean, AC/DC had a bagpipe solo. So how do you top that? Put a chainsaw solo in.
Yeah, gotta get creative,
Yeah.
I was listening to, I don't remember what, some music service, And there's a song by Gwar called The Horror of Yig.
Yes.
And it features an intro with bagpipes. And then I thought that song was coming on. But no, it turns out it was Korn instead, because Korn also has, I think Chutes and Ladders is the name of the song, where they bagpipe intro. And like, I never realized that like they were kind of similar intros in that respect.
Was AC/DC the first rock band to incorporate bagpipes?
Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. I mean, that was what, 78, 77?
I'm going to ask the Magic Rectangle.
Ask the Magic Rectangle.
Yeah, will you consult the Oracle? See what it has to say?
The captain continues.
Yeah, before we go on, this hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized, autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash master nodes. These master nodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by the treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first more than a decade ago, or nearly a decade ago, depending on when it started. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and it's also in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and easy to use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. And big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us here at Free Talk Live 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. That's dash.org. All right. So we've been talking about our number 2 story tonight. And it's kind of hilarious. The headline reads, "Holding in your poo at work is bad for you. A doctor explains why." So it's all about, pointing out the embarrassment that some people have over bowel movements, etc., and so on. Someone else chimed in that it's disgusting, smelly, and unhygienic. You can be as charming as you want, but if people hear you taking a S, it rips all of that away. Which, I mean, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, God.
But, you guys have all, walked a dog, right?
Yeah.
When a dog's squatting to take care of business,
and no
do you
one...
think the dog is feeling embarrassed, or if you're laughing at the dog or whatever, right?
They're just like, what?
Bonnie was telling me she dressed up her dog for Halloween as a hot dog.
Yes, he was super cute.
And that it was hilarious when she had to take him out to go do his business because you got a hot dog taking a poo.
Yeah.
So there's that. Anyway, one person told the publication, "Pooing destroys the ego. It strips you bare. The embarrassment of going for a number 2 is unsurprisingly very prevalent in the workplace, and the issue is thought to mainly affect women."
Grow up. I think, okay, so I was a CNA for a long time, and you can use your imagination of what I was spending most of my time doing as a CNA.
It was a number 2 story all the time.
It was every single day, every hour was a number 2 story. So maybe I just got so desensitized to it. I remember before that, as I was a teenager, you wouldn't really talk about it, especially with your girlfriends,
Yeah, I mean...
if I was hanging out with guys, it would probably come up more, but I wouldn't really share. I guess there was some form of embarrassment surrounding it. But I think as an adult, it's just literally grow up, get over it. Who cares?
Yeah, like dudes think that, I don't, and women project this too, I think, to some extent. But they think that, women don't stink and, that kind of thing. And then you get near the women's room and you can hear the farts and you can hear the grunts and
a bunch of dudes in there probably.
But I would like to ask of anyone who is either building a bathroom or remodeling one, put in a nice strong fan.
Yep.
Right. Do all of humanity a favor and put in a nice strong fan. Also,
some poopery.
I would like to request that in the industrial applications, that is office buildings and public bathrooms, that kind of a thing, turn off the timer. Right, a lot of the lights in these bathrooms have timers, and
I've never been in there long enough to
some
find that
people
out.
some people take a little longer from time to time to take care of their business, and the lights go off.
That's terrifying.
And then you gotta finish up, right? You gotta grab the toy. You gotta figure out how to navigate
You
in
got
the
to
dark.
do the little walk with your pants
Sometimes
around your ankles.
sometimes the
Little
stall,
waddle.
like you can start waving your arms around, but the sensor's nowhere near the stall,
Yeah.
so the sensor's not picking up movement, so the lights will go back on. So you got to figure out how to take care of your business and finish up and
That's what the
leave
stick's
the
for.
stall.
Get the stick, start waving
so
it.
you take your phone out to use it as a flashlight. It falls in the toilet. I mean, God, it's gonna be awful.
Oh no, that's happened to me before. When you have it in the back pocket and you, yeah.
An article published by Refinery 29 after the pandemic detailed the fact that one of the biggest concerns for adults returning to the office was going to the loo at work. I don't know anybody who calls it the. This is from
Could be a lot of
Yeah,
cerveza
they're
sickness
British.
in there. Maybe.
Yeah, they're British.
Hello.
But you ever see like when the dog takes a poo and then they wipe their paws on the grass?
Yeah.
And
Well,
like
they're
that,
trying
and
to
they're
throw
all
it
they're all
back at
happy.
you.
Like
Yeah.
I just lost 5 pounds. That's how I am.
Yeah, that's how.
I'm like you.
Woohoo, jump on the scale.
Yeah.
Jump on the scale.
I think when
Jumping
dogs
up and
do
down.
that, they're trying to like bury it or cover it with dirt.
Yeah,
and
but
whatever.
Oh,
it's
they
funny.
run around sometimes. They're
Yeah,
proud
they do
of,
get
they're proud of it,
excited.
I think. Yeah.
But it is funny, like how evolution does. Like, yeah, at one point that was a trait that dogs needed. But if you watch a dog do it, they're not actually burying it. They're just
Wiping their paws.
They're just like wiping their paws, essentially ripping up the grass a little bit.
The
so
cats
it's like,
always bury it. though.
at some point, there are all these people picking up their crap so often that they didn't actually have to bury it because they became domesticated.
Wow.
And, they lost the actual skill to
Right.
be able to bury it
Right,
or,
yeah, yeah.
or to care enough to bury it. They could if they wanted to, but
Someone will pick it up.
why? Yeah, exactly. I'm standing behind him with a bag. Why does he care,
Anxiety around pooing in a public space is known as parcopresis.
Oh.
Or
Okay.
parcopresis? Parcopresis.
Wow.
I don't,
It's a medical condition,
Don't know how to pronounce this.
psychological condition.
Parcopresis. Parcopresis is surprisingly common, says Dr. Ben Disney.
Okay, Ben.
Ben Disney
Has been Disney?
has been Disney.
A consultant gastroenterologist at university hospitals, blah, 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 whatever. Holding in your poo is not good for your gut. Our bodies need to do their thing, and regardless of the reasons you're holding in, it's not good for your gut, says Dr. Zoe Williams, who's currently working with Activia.
I would think it would. That's funny. She's working with the yogurt.
No, that's Activa, not Activia.
Oh, I thought it was I don't know.
I think they're different,
Anyways.
slightly different by one letter.
Yeah. I mean, I would, obviously that's bad. I would think that it would make you constipated after enough time, right?
You would think so, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, people have told me that I have a large bladder because I can sit for extraordinary long periods of time without having to go to the John.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, for example, the duration of this show.
Yeah.
Right? We're here
Right.
for like 3 hours, and like rarely when it's break time do I get up and hit the John, right?
Yeah.
I might use the John after the show's over before I leave and got to go drive home or whatever, that kind of a thing. But during the show, not a big deal. We'll go have dinner. I'll have beverages there, whatever. Come here,
You must
do a whole
not
show.
be a diabetic. Congratulations.
He's a camel,
At least not yet. Yeah.
packing it away.
I am predisposed, but hopefully I'm doing the right things to avoid that. At any rate, I think you might be right about when it says working with Activia. I think they might
The
be
yogurt,
working with
yeah.
yogurt because
I can hear the song in my head, Activia.
yeah. But yogurt is good for the digestive system.
Oh, yeah, the
So,
probiotics. And then for some reason, the Activia, I don't know, they put fiber in it or something. I don't-
Fibre.
Yeah.
Fibre.
Fibre. In the short term, she suggests it'll make you uncomfortable, bloated, and you'll likely need to pass gas more often as your body isn't happy keeping in what it needs to get out. How come people can hold in their number 2, but they can't hold back the number 3?
Number 3.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a technicolor yawn, also known as puke.
Right.
Yeah, I call it technicolor yawn.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite terms.
Because you're sick, right? So if it was,
I mean, if you had diarrhea, you can't.
Yeah,
hold
that's
back.
what I was gonna say. I was like, I don't know how graphic I want to get on
kind
the
of
radio, but he just went right for it. So
it's kind of just the opposite end.
yeah, exactly. Like you can't hold that back. You can try, but you're gonna shadoobie your pants.
As a public service to our listeners, I want to remind everybody that if you go to fart and there's any doubt in your mind about what's about to happen, and you go ahead and do the thing, and it's there's some product there.
Shart?
You just sharted. You didn't,
Yeah.
You crapped your pants is what happened, right? You didn't.
It happens.
And I'm just saying, like, if you don't have any doubt, then that's a legitimate fart. But if you have any doubt whatsoever, right, and then you do it, you just crapped your pants.
Yeah.
So
when in doubt, hit the loo.
Getting into the habit of holding a poo regularly can have some potential negative effects. Dr. Williams explained it can lead to constipation. The body may reabsorb water from the stool, making it harder.
Oh, that makes sense.
This can lead to impaction of poo, where it gets stuck inside.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's awful.
Yeah. Medical news today reports holding in a poo can also cause stretching of the lower regions or a loss of sensation within the rectum, which could result in incontinence.
Oh.
The author of a 2015 study also suggested that an increased fecal load in the colon
That's a funny way to
may increase bacterial counts and create long-term inflammation of the colon. Our digestive systems are influenced by everyday changing factors which may affect when and how you go, but still, the question remains, how many times should you poo? Well, that's easy.
Once a day.
When you have to.
Yeah, when you have to. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
at least once a day.
Like if you're not feeling like you have
to. Twice a day is okay, yeah.
If you're not feeling like you have to, don't.
No.
I mean, you can't, right? I mean, how do you force that?
Well, I mean, some people will. They're like, I haven't done my constitution yet this morning. Right. I should probably go sit on the john
intermittent
for
fasting
a minute,
for 24 hours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Healthline states that, as a broad rule, pooping anywhere from 3 times a day to 3 times a week is normal. 3 times
a week?
That seems
low.
You're
and
constipated.
3 times a day?
3 times a day. 3 times a day seems a bit excessive. I would say 1 or 2. I mean,
1 number 2 or 2 number 2s. 3 number 2s.
I have a parody song that I can't sing because it's got bad language in it.
Oh, I think I know.
Maybe you don't.
The pants one?
No.
No, a different one. Okay.
It's actually a Bob Marley song.
Oh, cool.
But I can't. When we,
all right,
we'll talk about it.
I'd love to hear
it. Typically, you'll need to go. Typically, you'll tend to go the same number of times around the same time each day. Although, depending on what you've eaten, this may vary. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious.
Wow. So if you go to Taco Bell,
you'll be going 3 times a day.
Again, another public service message. If you're on the road, you're traveling, and you do feel the need to go poo,
go.
I stop at Taco Bell and use their bathroom because the way I figure it, they owe me one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will hear this story nowhere else except for Free Talk Live.
Hey, let's go to an unscreened caller. What's your name? You're on Free Talk Live.
I can't believe this is what I'm competing with.
I mean, we're just trying to educate the population.
Public
yeah.
service.
You know that
people need to know.
The health. We could call it the health report.
The health report, yeah.
You know that we try to do a number 2 story every Sunday, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do it every week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes twice a week.
We really clean up in the ratings.
Yeah.
Holy God.
It's never our lead story though.
You can't wipe away our shtick.
So I have a follow up on the big shooting in Maine.
Okay.
Which, by the way, was perpetrated by a government worker. People tend to downplay that.
It was a military person.
But was that
card?
So the guy was a government worker, you're saying?
Yeah, he was a
former.
Yeah.
I think he may have been a former government worker.
No, I think
aside from him being in the military, because I know he was.
No, I think he was. Didn't we call it out that he was on? He was active reserve, something like that. He was
so federal government worker.
Yeah.
In that case, either current or former.
Yeah, he had a military ID that could get him on and off base.
Yeah. Okay.
And just like those two bureaucrats that did that terrorist attack in California, that was such a big deal. But also the lady who started the Colorado Springs fire that killed that burned down 300 houses.
I
didn't hear about
just
that.
off the top of my head. Yeah, no one ever talks about that, right?
So did that happen a while ago, or is that like recent?
Well, the Colorado Springs fire was in 2012. I just happened to be there during this time, so that's why I'm thinking about it. But she was a bureaucrat. I don't think she was a federal bureaucrat, however. She deliberately started a fire, like in dry woods, basically, as I recall, or at least in I don't remember all the details, but the other one was in California. But anyway, I'm getting off.
Yeah, what's the update on the shooter from Maine?
An executive counselor who is running for governor and probably a pretty top candidate for governor is doing something unusual in New Hampshire, and that is actually she's promising strict gun control in New Hampshire, actually.
Is this, what's her name, Camille or something? She's got a weird name.
I have a policy of not providing publicity to authoritarians.
I like your policy. Okay. All right.
But so I will not speak her name publicly. But
very well.
Yeah, she's got this this typical quote you would hear from another state. She says quote that's why I will call on the legislatures to send me a bill banning assault weapons in New Hampshire. This and other common sense gun violence, yada 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 yada, unquote. But she's calling for additionally extreme risk protection orders, gun-free school zones, universal background checks, all the kinds of fascist things that you might get if you lived in New York or something like that. Does that make sense?
That's the thing about that. It's like, why even try that in New Hampshire? Clearly, the people that live here don't want that.
Right.
Go, if you want that, Massachusetts, New York, they're literally right there.
Right.
Like, there are so many states within driving distance that you can move to where you will feel more safe and more comfortable if you are afraid of guns.
Here's the thing, though. Like, taking guns away from regular people does not make regular people more safe.
Yeah, of course.
I responded to this particular person, and by the way, this is Dave Ridley who's calling. We haven't even said who you are.
From the Ridley Report.
From RidleyReport.com. And I responded to this lady on Twitter, as I do to politicians, and I say this on the radio all the time. Great. If this is what you want to do, lead by example, disarm everybody in government first, lead by example, show us how it's done. If you can't do that, then shut the hell up.
Right. Get rid of your security guards with their guns.
Really?
Yeah, and if you think about it, the federal government, since they were his employer, they funded his assault rifle, his whatever weapon he purchased. They bought that gun. They funded his mass shooting.
The taxpayers paid for it.
Oh, and they trained him on how to do so as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So get the federal government out of New Hampshire. That's something we can do. Not making it impossible for people to defend themselves.
The sooner the better. Anyone else?
Dead air?
I don't know. Ridley?
Nothing else.
All right. Hey, how can people find out about your work? Where do they go?
Well, rather than finding me, fight her. Go to forum.shiresociety.com.
Awesome.
Forum.shiresociety.com. Yeah, get connected with us there. That's the most active web forum in New Hampshire.
Mr. Ridley, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate you, man. 603-283-6160 if you would like to join us. You could talk about whatever's on your mind. We've been talking about our number 2 story, and now we've been talking about, looks like, some more attempts at gun control by tyrants.
It's just so funny to me. Like, she totally did not read the room, did she? Like, do you know where you are? Because there's probably, like, 100 or 200 people in the entire state who would agree with that. I mean, this is a pretty heavily armed state.
Very.
Most people are.
Mean, when I was in Seattle, I thought that I was heavily armed.
Yeah, and then you met some of the people here.
And then I moved to New Hampshire, and I realized I am not armed at
Yeah.
all. Like, I just, no.
I think her name is Oyette.
Yeah, let's keep Dave's policy.
Kelly.
Let's not give her any. Let's not give her any public. Yeah.
Keep New Hampshire safe, prosperous, and free. Safe. I hate that word safe.
Yeah,
it's like when I hear the word officials.
Yeah. So, you know what really bothers me about politicians telling me that they're going to keep me safe and that they're going to introduce all of these policies to keep me safe? What really bothers me about that is that it is not keeping me safe. It's not keeping the children safe. It's not keeping the old lady safe. It's not keeping anybody safe. And at the end of the day, my safety, like the safety of me and my family, is my responsibility.
Yes.
So due to that, like, I will continue to work on my self-defense, work on, my situational awareness, be armed, whatever, because that is my responsibility. Because if someone were to break into my house, the cops are not there to save me.
Right.
I am there. I'm the only person that's there. And I could be raped and murdered within minutes.
Yep.
Far before the police or any emergency person could respond to this situation. At that point, I'm already dead.
Yep.
So this is my responsibility as a human being, and I think that's a huge issue, and why a lot of people idolize these politicians and worship the state so hard is because they don't want responsibility for their own safety, their own health, their own finances, all of these things. It's
easier for them to outsource it.
Yeah, it's easier to be a child for your entire life.
Yes.
Grow up. Take responsibility for your life.
Outsourcing your own safety is that's
dumb.
There's actually
dumb.
nothing wrong with outsourcing your safety. The problem is that the state claims a monopoly on the initiation of violence. So there is no market for safety services in that respect. Sure, private guards do exist, right? Security, guards, that kind of thing, but they're very limited. They can't compete with police because they'll get arrested if they do.
Yeah.
So you have no choice, and that's my problem with government in general. I have no choice to opt out. 603-283-6160. Hour number 2 of Free Talk Live is coming up.
Nobody loves their cable company except for internet access. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. To find what you want to watch, rather than the several hundred channels your cable or satellite menu force feeds you, explore cordcuttersnews.com. It's a buyer's guide for spending less or spending nothing on television. Founder Luke Bouma told me that for the vast majority of Americans, everything they want to watch is available streaming. The only reason many still subscribe to cable or satellite is live sports, and many team channels now offer streaming. Some cord cutters do end up paying cable-sized money, but what they end up with is 100% their menu. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with a roundup of the biggest headlines this past week, a week in which the war in the Middle East intensified. Israel began, then sustained its ground offensive into Gaza, the Palestinian territory led by Hamas, the militant group which killed around 1,400 people in an attack in Israel almost a month ago. Israel's since launched a bombing campaign in the enclave. The health ministry there says the death toll is roughly 10,000. The week ended with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Tel Aviv, his second visit in a matter of weeks, where he pushed for a humanitarian pause to allow additional aid into Gaza. He reiterated that the United States remains in solidarity with Israel, but stressed that more needs to be done to protect civilians.
As Israel conducts its campaign to defeat Hamas, how it does so matters, because it's the right and lawful thing to do. Failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas and other terror groups. This is what binds us as human beings. I've seen images, too, of Palestinian children, young boys and girls, pulled from the wreckage of buildings. When I see that, when I look into their eyes through the TV screen, I see my own children. How can we not?
Israel has ruled out a ceasefire unless Hamas releases hundreds of hostages, dozens of whom are abducted children still held in the Strip. More than 1,000 people, including some wounded and many foreign nationals, have managed to cross the border into Egypt after it opened for the first time since the conflict erupted. Displacement globally. Pakistan's started deporting thousands of undocumented migrants, mostly Afghans, after the deadline for voluntary deportation came to an end. Thousands of refugees have already been deported through the border crossing with Afghanistan. The Taliban has condemned the decision and called it inhumane. Priyata Bajabasi reports.
As Pakistan begins the forceful deportation of thousands of Afghans, many of them who have called Pakistan home for decades say they have nothing to go back to. Others say they're terrified to be heading back to a Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. Over the past month, Pakistan has expelled more than 100,000 Afghan migrants. Taliban said the Pakistani government must halt the expulsion of immigrants, adding Afghans should not be penalized for bilateral tensions between Islamabad and Kabul. Pakistan claims it is acting to protect national security following a sharp rise in terror attacks after Taliban's takeover.
The US and China are among countries that signed a declaration to work together to tackle the risks posed by artificial intelligence. Attending a summit in the UK, they agreed that AI brings the potential for catastrophic harm to humanity, but stopped short of calling for international regulation. In other news, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have been in court this week, testifying that they had no involvement with documents that a judge ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two brothers, together with their father, former President Donald Trump, are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets in order to secure better loans. Here's Jody Jacobs.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones who assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance. Email proof was presented in court, which painted a different picture, but neither vouched for the accuracy of the documents in question. Trump himself is set to testify on Monday, the latest in many court appearances for the former president.
Another trial. The founder of failed cryptocurrency exchange FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, was found guilty of fraud and money laundering. From the tech heartland of San Francisco, Ira Spitzer has the details.
It's a stunning fall from grace for the 31-year-old former tech billionaire who once ran one of the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchanges. FTX's bankruptcy led to 7 charges for Sam Bankman-Fried, with federal prosecutors accusing him of stealing billions of dollars of customers' money. During the trial in Manhattan, which lasted almost a month, Bankman-Fried maintained he made large mistakes but had acted in good faith. Bankman-Fried's sentencing is due to take place on March 28th. He faces up to 110 years in prison.
I'm Benji Hire. That was your Week in Review.
After the USDA unveiled its updated roommate food pyramid earlier this week, Department of Agriculture spokesman Michael Lowry spoke to Onion reporters about just how many servings of someone else's food roommates should be consuming on a day-to-day basis.
Under the new guidelines, roommates should eat at least 4 portions of someone else's grains per day, including 1 to 2 cups of already opened cereal. Of course, this is all in addition to the 8 to 16 swigs of milk and orange juice spaced out over a few days.
Lowry emphasized that many aspects of the new roommate food pyramid are unchanged from the previous version, including a recommended daily intake of 24 ounces of lunch meat straight from the bag and 5 to 7 weekly finger scoops of Erica's peanut butter.
Remember to limit your intake of sugar and sweets from half-open containers, especially if they're Jessica's, because she'll definitely notice.
For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
We're back. We be back and stuff.
Yes, who's back?
Back with a Big Mac.
Back again. Free Talk Live's back.
Oh, jeez.
Tell a friend.
Wow. Okay.
It's my rap solo
Tell a
for
friend.
the night.
I didn't realize you were a rapper. Yeah?
Yeah.
You're not wearing any like
part
gold,
of my,
gold chains or
No.
I mean, I'm from the old school.
I try to
so
stay low key, you know?
She's a 603 rapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
No gold.
No gold. No.
Silver.
Silver.
Bling.
Goldbacks.
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 She's got a necklace made of goldbacks.
That actually would be really cool.
A bunch of them overlapping each other, so it's all big and huge, like a Mr. T style necklace.
Yeah.
Weighs you down, so you
Wealth.
end up with like a hunch on your back as
Prestige.
you get older. This is Free Talk Live. The telephone number, if you would like to join us, is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain,
Steve Classic,
and Nikki.
You had to think about it there. And
you know what? I'll tell you the truth. Right now, I have the song from Step Brothers stuck in my head.
Which song?
Boats and Hoes.
Oh, okay. All right.
So my brain's like,
yeah,
I can't really
now
say
I'm
the
thinking
lyrics.
of Lonely Island. I'm on a boat.
Yeah, Lonely Island's another good one.
I still have the Mac Sabbath stuck in my head.
Yeah.
For our listeners who have not been properly introduced to Mac Sabbath, it's MAC space Sabbath.
Go look it up.
Go look it up.
You'll thank us.
It's hilarious. You might even grimace at the matter. You'll find a lot of value from Mac Sabbath.
I'm loving it.
You are loving it, aren't you? Yeah. Moving on from, we've talked about all sorts of stuff. We talked about a naked man fighting a cop stealing his patrol vehicle. We talked about Fed smokers videos. We talked about the poo stick and a cup of dice. We talked about gun control attempts in New Hampshire, which generally fail. We talked about holding in your poo at work is bad for you, and some other stuff that I can't remember. But this one is something we definitely need to cover here on Free Talk Live. This from Eyewitness News 3. Trying to see where they're out of Hartford.
They're Hartford.
Hartford.
They actually
Connecticut.
left Hartford to go to Rocky Hill because there's so much crime in Hartford.
Yeah, there is a lot of crime in Hartford. You can tell because there's like gang signs spray painted
Everywhere. On the highway.
On the highway, yeah, like on the exit signs. Same with certain roads in Providence, Rhode Island, too.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the gang signs will spray painted on the exit signs.
Yeah. Don't get off this exit.
Yeah. But it's kind of nice that they like give you a heads up.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I think I'll keep going.
Right.
Totally unrelated. Near my house, there are some signs for warning you that there's a railroad crossing coming
Okay.
up.
I was like, probably not gang signs
No,
where
no,
you
no.
live.
No.
The railroad gang.
And these are the circle signs with the two R's and the
Yep.
big black X, and it's a yellow background or whatever, right? You've seen these.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with these signs at all. And then one day, a truck pulls up, and a couple of guys get out, and they unbolt the existing sign and replace it with the exact same sign except brand new, right? Like, they had to like peel off the thing on the front, because it was, fresh off the railroad sign printing press, I guess, or whatever. Yeah. And I'm thinking
so
to
they're
myself,
just trying to use up the budget or whatever.
I'm thinking to myself, there was nothing wrong with that sign. It wasn't like the paint wasn't peeling, it wasn't chipped, it wasn't smashed up, it wasn't, nobody had run into it or run it over or whatever. It was just
Was it bigger?
No, it was the exact same sign.
Wow.
Like,
sounds dumb.
To the size and everything, and I'm like, this is what I hate about bureaucracy. Not the only thing, but like one more thing to hate about the bureaucracy, about taxation, about cities.
Yeah, you paid for that sign.
But why? Why did I pay for that sign? There was a perfectly good sign there that was doing its job, letting people know, hey, there's a railroad crossing coming up, right?
I mean, you could even
Didn't
argue
need to be changed.
You don't even really need this sign in the first place. I mean, you can see the railroad, right?
Okay,
I'm not
sure.
against there being a sign if there was already a sign, but
if your government is replacing things that don't need to be replaced,
you should ask questions.
Yeah, you should do a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's like renumbering the exits to mile
yeah,
markers.
it's like why do we keep doing that? Oh my gosh, what a mess.
Marked safe today from
getting off the wrong
exit updates.
So anyway, this story out of Hartford, Connecticut. News 3, apparently. WFSB.com. Burlington man arrested for growing $8.5 million worth of shrooms.
This one makes me so sad. He's like 21 years old, too.
There's a graphic here. It says, illegal mushroom arrest. Massive magic mushroom operation busted. Operation, right. Some stuff was growing.
It just, yeah.
When they talk about farm, they're like massive corn operation.
Yeah. No, it just bothers me because they're like painting him like some like big time drug dealer. And it's like he could be selling fentanyl or like he could be selling hard drugs, but instead he's growing mushrooms.
Right.
Like who cares?
Yeah, no one does.
No one cares.
Except for the government.
Burlington
Yeah,
cops.
of course. Well, I actually got in a little bit of a debate with some lady on Facebook who, coincidentally, this was on like a freedom-oriented local group chat sort of thing. And she was like, well, he was kind of asking, like totally victim blaming him. Like he was kind of asking for it. Like if he was just growing some mushrooms, like that'd be one thing. But millions of dollars and all of these things, like,
Well, the cops always overestimate that stuff, too.
Exactly.
Right, so.
I mean, if you see the pictures, it is kind of a lot.
Right.
But either way, it's like, who cares? I'm like, who is he harming by doing this? And if you're a so-called freedom-minded person, no, you're not. Because why would you victim blame this guy? Like, that's just so strange. I don't know. It's like...
A man from Burlington faces drug factory charges, whatever that is, after detectives found he had been growing a significant amount of shrooms. Weston Soule, S-O-U-L-E, age 21, was charged with possession with intent to sell narcotics.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
And operating a drug factory. Shrooms are not narcotics.
That's what I was saying. Like, I've never heard of a mushroom be called a narcotic before. I mean, it's literally a fungi. It's like a fungus. It's not...
It's about the schedule, right? Whatever that is, right? So, like,
but is that
a
narcotic? Because to me, narcotic, like, that has a definition.
Yeah, I don't know what the state of Connecticut recognizes as a narcotic or not, legally speaking, so I can't really tell you. But they're definitely wrong, whatever the case may be, right? Mushrooms are not narcotics. right? Nowhere is weed, but they share the same or at least did share. Right,
Yeah.
A lot of places now
Yeah.
weed is
the same schedule.
decriminalized or whatever. But
But yeah, at one point, it was I think like LSD and mushrooms are higher on the schedules than like heroin.
Yeah.
Which I mean, do the math. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
How many people are dying from taking magic mushrooms? How many people are dying from like heroin and all of these other hard drugs?
Oh my God, guys, something's wrong. I think I've ingested too much marijuana.
Yeah, said no one
Said
ever.
no one ever, exactly,
Yeah.
yes. State police said members of the DEA Hartford Task Force and state police detectives received a tip that suggested this guy, Soul, was operating a clandestine psilocybin mushroom growing operation at a home on Lion Road. They arrived at Soul's home on Thursday around 9 a.m. When they got there, detectives
you got
said...
there late.
Yeah,
I know,
9 a.m.
right? Yeah, no.
Wow.
And
4
also,
a.m. door smashing.
I'm curious as to how they arrived, right? What did that look like? It makes it sound like, they just pulled up and knocked on a door.
Howdy.
Is that true, or did they show up with tanks
Yeah,
and
and like a
guns
gas
and kick in
bomb.
doors? And,
Helicopter.
When they got there, detectives said they made contact with Soul and saw ventilation equipment throughout the residence, consistent with those used in clandestine laboratories.
Oh my God.
Soul accompanied investigators to a detached garage on the property where the detectives spotted a large mushroom growing operation. And they've got, a photo here of
bags of compost.
Bunch of bags.
I mean, like, what a waste of resources. Like, there's so much crime in that area. And for them to waste DEA task force and like this, that, and the other thing, all of these resources to harass this poor kid. I mean, he's a kid. And what, now he's going to go to federal prison for growing mushrooms? I don't care how much money he was making. I don't care how many mushrooms he had. There is nothing to justify this.
During interactions with investigators, Soul claimed that the type of mushrooms he was growing were not illegal. I wonder if that's true. I wonder if there's a specific strain or variety that, doesn't fall under any schedule and,
Well, yeah, there must be, right? Because, like, I can grow lion's mane. Or
Right.
like turkey tail, like you can grow mushrooms.
Right.
It's just once they're psychoactive.
Right. When asked about activities inside of the main residence, Soul did not consent to a search of residence. Yay!
Yeah, all right.
Good job. All right. I wonder if he's a listener. Detectives then submitted a search warrant to New Britain Superior Court, which was granted. Upon serving the search warrant at Soul's residence, investigators said they found a clandestine mushroom growing factory within. I don't know why they call it clandestine.
Yeah, it's
right?
kind of crazy.
Like, you mean
Also, I wonder-
they found a growing factory within, right? Why you gotta
all the adjectives and the.
They found some shrooms growing.
Right.
So I wonder how, like, what the timeline is. Like, how quick can they get a search warrant? Because if I was this kid, I'd be like, all right, let's take a few, like, let's get rid of these. Or, like, put them somewhere else.
So they
you know what I
already had
mean?
probable cause, so I imagine the turnaround wasn't,
Yeah, exactly.
slow. Upon serving the search warrant at his residence, investigators sent, we said that already. The operation contained psilocybin mushrooms in various stages of growth with an estimated total street value of $8.5 million.
Now that's inflation. Come on.
Yeah, which like 4 years ago was about like 2.5.
2 million. Right.
And they
should have got busted 2 years ago, 4 years ago.
Well, like they say it like that to, like they use the monetary amount for like wow
Sensationalism.
factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's like
I wonder
saying,
how many pounds that really is. Like it might actually not be that much.
That is.
And who's determining street value?
Right. That's like when the press talks about the Crypto 6 case and the more than $10 million that was passed through, whatever. Right. And it's like, no, they don't say it like that. They make it seem like Ian profited $10 million.
Yes, exactly,
right?
Which is not the case
Which
at
is
all.
what the general people believe, right? That he made $10 million off of people. No.
Yeah.
That's just, and like.
Yeah, it makes it sound like he's living in some mansion and,
No, not at all. Like.
Same with this kid. I mean, he's living in a normal house. Like, if you see the pictures, like,
Yeah,
he's not like
it's
super
a rural,
wealthy.
It's a rural, ranch-style farmhouse.
I mean, he's just making an honest living.
But the way the news will report this, they'll say something like, "Oh, the new school updates were $8.4 million."
Right.
But when they bust it, it's $8.4 million worth of drugs. They make it they stretch it.
Sewell admitted to investigators that the mushrooms were in fact psilocybin, which is labeled as a Schedule 1 controlled substance.
Talk to the cops. Don't tell them anything.
I guess he's not a listener after all.
You don't answer questions.
I mean, good for him for at least being like. I think at that point he was like, they already know. But still, don't talk to the cops. Don't say anything. I want a lawyer.
Yeah, listen. No one has ever been told after a court trial or after being prosecuted for something that, gee, that sentence would have been a lot lower had you just talked to the cops.
It will never, ever, ever benefit you.
Well, anything you say can and will be used against you in the court.
Yeah, it won't be used for you.
Right. It's always against you. Like, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't answer questions.
Yeah.
So at any rate, it's a Schedule 1 controlled substance and is defined as drugs, substances, and chemicals that are not currently accepted for medical use and have high potential for abuse. That's not true, man. Shrooms.
There is
high
zero
potential?
Yeah, zero
That's
potential for abuse.
Potential.
And I say that there's medical uses.
There
for
definitely is
mushrooms.
medical uses for mushrooms,
So,
particularly microdosing. Right,
absolutely.
the same with MDMA. Right,
Absolutely.
for things like PTSD or other ailments, other mental illnesses. It's been shown to be effective.
Right.
So this is not true. Thank you for lying to us, Channel 3 News. Based on the information obtained during the investigation, Sewell was taken into custody at the scene and transported to State Police Headquarters in Litchfield.
Litchfield.
Is it? Oh,
No, it's Litchfield. Litchfield. Yeah,
Litchfield.
It's very nice. I mean,
More phlegm.
yeah, Litchfield is very nice. If you're going to go to State Police Headquarters, Litchfield is the place you want to go.
All right.
Okay, Litchfield,
Got the
where
inside
he was
scoop.
processed and charged. Processed? What, like cheese?
Yeah.
Did they put a little, a little wrapper around him that you got to peel off later?
Right.
And
He got a USDA sticker put
him
on
in a stack with a bunch of other, arrestees.
Processed.
Pasteurized, processed criminals. Let's see. Eyewitness News spoke with a neighbor who would frequently walk by the house and said when it was cold outside, he noticed something odd. I wonder if this is the snitch.
That's the snitch.
Yeah. They were running air conditioners when it was a cold day, which didn't seem right. They had air conditioners
Mind
in
your business.
in the top windows and front of the house. Yeah, totally.
Who cares?
Mind
Also,
your heat
how
pumps.
nosy?
Yeah.
How nosy do you have to be to even notice that? I wouldn't notice. I mean, I'm thinking of this neighborhood. The houses are pretty close together. I totally would not notice if any of these people were running an air conditioning right now. How would you notice that?
Yeah, he says they had air conditioners in the top windows and front of the house. You also saw more cars there during the day, which made it seem like a place of employment rather than someone sleeping there at night, said the neighbor. This is a nosy Nelly is what this is.
Yeah.
This is the type of neighbor you never want to have.
No kidding.
You know what they say about snitches. So, UNH criminal justice professor and retired FBI agent Kenneth Gray.
What?
Jeez, man, that guy's got more labels than me.
I went to school with a Ken Gray.
Oh.
Wonder if it's the same guy.
Might be.
He says that's a usual sign in this type of operation. In a marijuana grow house, the house is usually filled with lamps. In this case, mushrooms don't need a lot of lamps. Instead, they need a lot of ventilation, Gray said. Eyewitness News called police to ask if they know how long the operation was going on for, but they did not return our calls. Sewell was held on a $250,000 cash surety bond.
And this is so dumb.
$250,000.
That's the thing. They're like, oh, well, he's a millionaire. He can afford it, right? This kid is not a millionaire.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have that, That's crazy.
And he was scheduled for arraignment at New Britain Superior Court.
The old hometown.
So, yeah. Free this guy. No victim. No crime. Abolish the police.
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's just so sad because this guy is gonna. I don't want to manifest this for him, but I mean, we've seen this before. He's gonna go to jail, and for this kid, to spend,
They should send him to a agricultural school.
Yeah, they.
You could work for Bill Gates. with all the farmland
It's
he's
just
buying.
so sad. I mean, he's so young. He has his whole life ahead of him. He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Right.
He's a botanist of sorts.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like this kid.
Got a green thumb.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the
4-H
thing, too.
scholarship and
Yeah, like this kid, like clearly he has something going for him. Like all these other 21-year-olds are lazy. They're working. They're like minimum wage jobs or whatever. They're working for the man, working for somebody else. They're drinking. You know, they're doing all these all these things that your average 21-year-old is doing. And this kid is like an entrepreneur. He's running his own business. All of these positive things, providing the community with mushrooms, which they obviously need because it's kind of a mess down there. And now he's going to go to jail. Like, that's so sad.
I'd appoint him as agriculture secretary in my administration. Hey, get that kid. He's good.
Oh, it's just such a bummer.
Yeah,
I feel bad for him. He looks like a hippie. Like, he's probably just like some hippie kid, too.
Sure.
Like, that's so lame.
Like, in any other context, this guy would be exactly as you described, Nikki, a businessman, right?
Yeah, he's just,
He's got his own small business. That's all he
that's
is.
it.
Right?
Oh, he didn't get the government paperwork.
He didn't have a permit.
It's illegal.
Willing customers, right, who voluntarily want to exchange something of value to get, whatever his product is.
Yeah.
And it's all voluntary. There's no harm involved.
Not at all.
Right?
And
there's no
like,
violence. Tell me what's violent about a kid growing mushrooms in a house.
Absolutely nothing. And like with some other drugs, I don't really care if people do drugs. Like if they want to, that's fine. If you sell drugs, it's whatever to me. But I understand how some people can make the argument with certain drugs that you can overdose on or are highly addictive. I understand how some people would have an issue with the production and sale of those drugs. I totally understand that. Because you could argue there is a victim, even if it's consensual. Like there are victims there. I mean, we see people dying all the time. With mushrooms, I mean, like it is you might
get sick.
Yeah, like you might get like a food poisoning symptoms, but I've never heard of anyone dying from mushrooms. I've never heard of anybody getting addicted. Like there's, even if teenagers are doing it, I don't care if teenagers are doing it, like whatever.
You never see a homeless person on the side of the road going,
no,
man, I need some money to get my next shroom fix.
No, never.
And that never occurs.
Breaking into cars for mushrooms.
Right, yeah.
And I think something like that has helped so many people. And it's just sad. The whole thing's really sad for so many reasons.
But if he was growing pot, well, they'd probably fine him for not having a permit.
You didn't get a license.
You didn't get a license in Connecticut.
You didn't get our permission.
Right. So,
and in like 10 years, this is going to be legal and this kid's still going to be in jail or whatever. It's just so dumb.
It's really dumb.
It's totally dumb.
Totally dumb.
Totes dumb. Did I just say that?
Totes.
Remind me to never say that again. Ever,
Add that to the list of things you're not supposed to say.
Yeah.
Say what again?
Totes.
You just said it.
Come on, we just told it. We already talked about this.
Don't say it again.
I fell for that.
Don't say it.
I totes fell for it.
All right.
I'm feeling rather mid right now. Not very based. I'm using slang that I have no business using.
Yeah.
Too old for it. What's happening? What's going on? Is this some kind of radio show? What day is it?
It's Free Talk Live.
Like
It must be the daylight savings time or the daylight. We're not saving it.
Government savings time.
Government savings time.
Government slavings time. Yes, monkeys, dance. Do the dance of the clocks because we said so. There's no reason for it. We talked about it on last night's show. If you missed it, you can find the archives at freetalklive.com. But yeah, definitely there's a whole article about how daylight savings time is dumb. And we covered it last night. So it's Free Talk Live. More coming up, including stuff about education.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with a roundup of the biggest headlines this past week, a week in which the war in the Middle East intensified. Israel began, then sustained its ground offensive into Gaza, the Palestinian territory led by Hamas, the militant group which killed around 1,400 people in an attack in Israel almost a month ago. Israel's since launched a bombing campaign in the enclave. The health ministry there says the death toll is roughly 10,000. The week ended with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Tel Aviv, his second visit in a matter of weeks, where he pushed for a humanitarian pause to allow additional aid into Gaza. He reiterated that the United States remains in solidarity with Israel, but stressed that more needs to be done to protect civilians.
As Israel conducts its campaign to defeat Hamas, how it does so matters, because it's the right and lawful thing to do. Failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas and other terror groups.
Israel has ruled out a ceasefire unless Hamas releases hundreds of hostages, dozens of whom are abducted children still held in the Strip. More than 1,000 people, including some wounded and many foreign nationals, have managed to cross the border into Egypt after it opened for the first time since the conflict erupted. Displacement globally. Pakistan's started deporting thousands of undocumented migrants, mostly Afghans, after the deadline for voluntary deportation came to an end. Thousands of refugees have already been deported through the border crossing with Afghanistan. The Taliban has condemned the decision and called it inhumane. Priyata Bajabasi reports.
As Pakistan begins the forceful deportation of thousands of Afghans, many of them who have called Pakistan home for decades say they have nothing to go back to. Others say they're terrified to be heading back to a Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. Taliban said the Pakistani government must halt the expulsion of immigrants. Pakistan claims it is acting to protect national security.
In other news, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. had been in court this week, testifying that they had no involvement with documents that a judge ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two brothers, together with their father, former President Donald Trump, are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets in order to secure better loans. Here's Jody Jacobs.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. Trump himself is set to testify on Monday, the latest in many court appearances for the former president.
I'm Benji Haya. That was your week in review.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Well, since you didn't like my Slim Shady song, I figured I'd give you some AC/DC. It's a little bit more palatable.
Thanks. Thanks for thinking of me.
With bagpipes.
Appreciate you.
That's without bagpipes, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just not the same without the bagpipes.
No, yeah, you really need the bagpipes.
603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Steve Classic.
And Nikki.
Before we go on, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Nikki, but that's not where I was going with this.
Oh.
You too, Steve. I need to say thank you to Ricky from the Commonwealth.
Oh.
Who is a platinum level.
Wow.
Platinum level amplifier. What's an amplifier, you might ask? Well, AMPS is the program. It stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. You can find out all about the program over at amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. It's a Patreon type setup. The minimum we ask for is $5. That's all we ask. You can give more. Obviously, Ricky does.
Platinum.
Platinum. Yeah, I think that's, let's see, is it 5?
Is there one
10?
above that? Plutonium?
I think it's maybe $25.
Wow.
I think is what he gives.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's certainly one of the higher tiers. And why would anybody choose to give us money on this situation? Well, because we're on about 180 radio stations right now. We could be on 200, 250, 300, not out of the question. But it costs money to advertise, market, promote, and support this show. So if you enjoy the show, the hosts, the co-hosts, the callers, the content, the perspective of freedom, peace, and prosperity that we try to bring you, then please help us get on more radio stations. Help us spread the message of freedom because Lord knows the world needs it. So thank you again, Ricky from the Commonwealth. We appreciate you. Find out all about the program over at amps.freetalklive.com.
And the captain will read your name on air.
And it's as if we've summoned him.
Ricky from the
Ricky?
Commonwealth.
Let's see. Is this Ricky?
That would be there, brother.
All right.
He was waiting.
Wow.
Steve, Sister Nikki, good evening.
That's
Hello.
Twisted Sister Nikki to you, pal.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, I have to admit I've been gone for a little while, and see what it
You
comes
should have been
down to.
gone. Wait, no, that's Journey. Sorry,
Well,
my
you
bad.
know what it is? Sometimes when I'm doing special Ricky from the Commonwealth work, I move around a bit. But you know what's really interesting? I got
It's a
this
euphemism,
new
isn't
battle flag, and I was in a neighboring county from the county where I'm from. And, the affiliates aren't in this area anymore. But you know what's interesting? They're listening to the internet streams and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I was in a neighboring county, and I'll say twice in that county I got hit with this, and then now 4 times now I came back to my county. They see this, and they hear the calls. I go to different locations, and some of them say, no tax for you, sir. You know what I tell them? I says, when I get sit in the seat and I blow it away, there's going to be no taxes for any of us. And, it's funny. Somebody said to me, hey, where are those? I can't tell you those places. But see, that's appreciation. But anyways, on another note,
Okay.
I was thinking about this. I mean, you said about medicinal. Now, I take Tegretol. I've mentioned in the past. I'm
Tegrity?
an epileptic. It's Tegretol. There,
Tegretol.
brother.
Sorry. I was thinking of South Park.
Now, I'm in remission for 25 years.
Tegrity weed.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. You see, I know how long I can go without my Tegretol because I tested it. My neurologist wasn't surprised. I can go 5 months, and then what happens is I'll get little brain seizures. The average person can't tell them, but I can. And then it'll start to go downhill quick. But you know what? One thing I can tell you, now, I generally take my Tegretol because I get it free under my medical coverage as generic, and the Tegretol XR 400 generic, identical to the real thing, probably because they won't mess with it. But here's what I found out when I did my testing the second time. I could do 3 medium bowls a day, little purple haze, little Jamaican red, nice and green.
Mm-hmm.
I can go beyond that. I went over 7 months. Now, can I replace it? Sure. I generally take my Tegretol, but it's good to have a substitute when times could get tough. Brother Captain?
What?
Well, that's what it comes down to. See, under Nixon, he's the one that started it. He created the monster, and the right was always involved.
Oh, the DEA?
It was Big Pharma. It was Big Pharma. And, I think in Nixon's mind, it actually was a legitimate thing for the economy. And George W. Bush brought it to life. But you know what the problem is? They can't hide anymore. For the past 3-4 years, the Democrats have been trying to legalize it across the board. The Republicans are like, no, we can't do that. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't things like Tegretol and things like, what the problem is, isn't things like blood pressure medication and things like that. The problem is it'll replace the antidepressants, the antipsychotics.
Oh, yeah.
To an extent, the opiates. Oh, we can't have that. Oh, my God, that'd be bad for the economy.
And if you grow it in your backyard,
Yeah, Big Pharma is definitely afraid of losing their profits to stuff that you can grow yourself, like marijuana.
A 21-year-old kid in Connecticut.
And mushrooms.
Right.
I just want to...
Ricky, my rallies, you can smoke anything you want. You can dress or undress anywhere you want, as long as you're healthy. If you want to eat a half an ounce of fresh mushrooms at my rallies, you're safe. But see, at my rallies, unlike this guy who talks about his Second Amendment, who used to be president, not a gun in sight, there's going to be lots of them at my rallies.
Ricky, I just want to tell the folks at home who don't know what Tegretol is. It's carbamazepine. It's sold under the brand name Tegretol. It's an anticonvulsant medication used in a variety of treatments such as epilepsy or neuropathic pain, et cetera, and so on. So it's used to treat other things too. But I just want to give people an idea of what Tegretol might be.
Right. And one important thing about Tegretol, see, I got into remission, like I said, 25 years ago, or maybe something like that. See, what happened is my neurologist, brilliant man, retired now. He had me, and he's working it, and I was 90-some% he had me good. But see, the thing is, it wasn't 100%. He said, Rick, I have an idea. I want 100%. But see, he didn't want to push me to 1,000 because 1,200 is a toxic level to anybody, including me. So, what it is, something brand new just got approved by the FDA, Tegretol XR 400. Well, that's 400 milligrams in one pill. That's a lot, but it's also a time release.
I really just hate how, there is an FDA and that there's this, this new thing was approved. We don't need a government bureaucracy to prove to us what is or isn't effective when it comes to pharmaceuticals, right?
And one thing I will tell you, the XR, now that's a time release. Now that was the first, and that did solve my problem, but that was the first of all of them. Then you had Seroquel XR and all of that.
Yeah.
That was the beginning. And time release is a beautiful thing, actually. For a change, it's something good to solve a lot of problems for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Big Pharma is evil, though. They are evil. Yep. I wish it wasn't that way, but it's out of control, and there's only one way to stop them. And see, the only people that can stop them is the federal government. But I will say, when I make that thing blown away, you know what? We can do so many things so different. See, we can do trade any way we want, and we don't have to be under their thumb anymore.
Yeah, once the government gets out of the way, you'll see amazing things happen in the market. And Ricky, thank you for the call. We appreciate you. Amazing things happen in the market. Currently, the most reliable price-dropping common purchase in the United States, televisions, right?
Really? Yeah. Televisions?
Yeah. Yeah, the price.
That seems like a one-time purchase, or maybe.
No, I'm talking about the price reducing. So I can go into Walmart right now, and I can go buy a 40-inch, 4K TV for
$400,
yeah,
$300.
Yeah, where
bucks
previously it was
like
the same price as a car.
That would have been 10 times that just a few years ago, 5 years ago or something like that. It'd have been $3,000 or something for that same television. Maybe more like 5 or 8
all
years
tech
ago,
is like that. Computers or DVD players or whatever.
Oh, okay. To some extent, yes. But as far as most common purchase, right, televisions are still, the number one. So why does that occur? Why do the prices of televisions keep going down? Even though we've got inflation and we've got, more improvements in television, right? Your TVs are smart now, and you can just connect to the internet and get on your Netflix or whatever, right? So why does the price of televisions keep going down as opposed to anything else, right?
Big Mac's going
outside of
up.
tech. We haven't gotten to that one yet, but we will.
Big Mac's up television's down.
Yeah.
So people need TVs more than Big Macs?
It's because televisions are not regulated.
Oh,
right?
Really?
Yeah. There are like most television manufacturers subscribe to the UL Laboratories,
right?
And the UL Laboratories is a non-government entity, an NGO, a non-government organization that provides the rating system. Right now, if you're a business and you want to establish some level of trust with your customers, you might consider getting this agency to come in and inspect your process, your manufacturing process, your sales process, your distribution process, and give you one of these UL listed, right? It would be the same thing as like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Right. If you've ever heard of this, right? Yeah. So you don't need a government agency, a monolithic armed government agency to make things or to approve or disapprove things. All you need is independent evaluators, Consumer Reports.
Right. So if you had if the USDA had to grade televisions, it would probably be $1,000.
Right.
Right.
Yes. And they would all have to conform to a whole bunch more stuff than they currently do. You couldn't innovate. Everything would be sort of.
You can't have a small TV. That's too small. Too big.
I need like 4 HDMI inputs, but I can only buy a TV with one.
Yeah,
right. Because
USDA
the government says right. Yeah,
can't have too many.
Right, and so it stifles innovation. Right, and that's just what government does. And so it's really easy to have free market agencies, NGOs, non-government organizations, perform the tasks that government claims to be performing with something like a USDA or an FDA or whatever. Right. But without the government influence. They're truly independent, right? Because currently we know that pharma and government are in bed together, right? That pharma is donating to these campaigns. These politicians are now currying favor for these big pharma companies, right? And that's just how it works, apparently, right? Now, we could get rid of all of that by abolishing government.
Well, isn't organic food, like if it's labeled organic, that's government oversight?
It's a USDA certification.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you say it's non-GMO product or non-GMO verified or whatever, that's like the private group saying that it's
to my knowledge,
somewhat
yes.
good. It's a little gray area, but I know that, it has to pass. I don't know whether it's USDA or FDA, organic.
It's funny that we talk in terms of organic or non-GMO, whereas my grandparents used to just call it food.
Right.
Yeah, because it was all organic, right?
Yeah. It wasn't until, I guess what, the 40s and 50s, right, was the sort of the start of processed food.
Yeah, processed food, but I think the regular use of these toxic pesticides, that was even later than that, because I don't even necessarily think, processed foods and eating a ton of sugar, that stuff's not great for you, but it's not toxic to the level that some of these pesticides are.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's literally killing people and giving them cancer.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, where did all this cancer come from? Oh my goodness. I all of these, neurological disorders and why does every single kid have ADHD and, all this stuff. And it's well, maybe if you stopped poisoning the food, we wouldn't be so sick.
It's like the those memes that Matt put up this week was instead of Fruity Pebbles, it was called Fructose Peddlers.
Yeah.
400 times the amount of sugar.
What was the other one? It was
whipped lard with
tree sap flavored
high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
Yeah. It's all disgusting.
Yeah. Country Time lemonade doesn't have any lemons. Get your daily ascorbic acid or something.
Contains no lemons whatsoever. So I guess we'll move on to the next thing. Nikki, I think, did you bring this one in about Chicago's schools?
Not Chicago.
No? Okay.
I don't think so. I brought in something.
The homeschooling one.
Yeah,
right.
homeschooling.
Okay, we'll get to both of those, I think. From FEE, which stands for?
Fee.
The
free education.
Anyone?
I feel like I should know this.
FEE.
Fee. It's economic something.
Freedom
Foundation for Economic Education.
Yeah.
Well, now I know.
I knew that at one point.
Knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
You know what the other half is?
I don't know.
The
Remembering?
battle.
Oh.
The actual fighting. Yes.
The other half.
Knowing is the first half.
Yeah.
Then there's the actual fighting. From fee.org, FEE.org, Chicago's solution to its failing school system. Stop grading schools on performance.
Wait. We're just going to make everyone equally as bad. Just bring everybody down.
It's become abundantly clear that the greatest obstacle to educational reform is the government itself. Yeah!
Yeah,
FEE.
Yeah.
Reporting the truth.
All right, so here we go. In 1987, U.S. Education Secretary Bill Bennett famously traveled to Chicago, the Windy City, where he ruffled feathers. Really? Oh, he ruffled feathers by telling a closed-room group that the Windy City school system was, quote, the worst in the nation.
Wow.
Really? I mean,
That's
even
not holding
what
back,
about Mississippi and Louisiana? I thought they were the worst.
Baltimore?
I mean,
Maybe by
Hartford?
city?
Yeah, or
Because
maybe...
I could totally see like inner city Chicago being the worst.
Oh, definitely. Local parents and educators bristled at the charge, which resulted in an awkward New York Times story. But decades of data would subsequently prove that Mr. Bennett was correct. Chicago's schools were a total mess.
So really quick before we move on, deep dish pizza, yay or nay?
Nay.
Yay.
Okay. I'm a yay. I had to know.
It's my preference.
Yeah.
Really?
It's either deep dish, Chicago style is my favorite, or thin crust.
Yeah, New England style.
I don't like this medium crust that everybody has, this hand tossed thing. It's not that I don't like it, but it's just like it's not as good. To me, I like the thin cracker crust because of its crackling crunchiness.
Little burnt on the bottom.
Or I like the deep dish because it's fried bread.
Yeah. I just like
literally, it's fried bread.
It's
in
very
oil.
very doughy. Yeah, I like various styles of pizza as long as they are cooked well and it's like good quality New York City style pizza.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to give a shout out to a place in Minneapolis that I think still exists called Devani's Pizza.
Devani's. Yeah, sounds divine.
They do a thing where for their deep dish pizza, they will when you're making the pizza, they'll grab an empty or a thing of dough in a tray before they cook it, and instead of putting sauce on it, they'll just brush it with a little bit of garlic butter, and then they'll start putting the toppings on and the cheese and all that stuff, and then they'll put it through the oven.
Oh, they put the sauce on the top.
Yeah, when it comes
That's
out the
crazy.
other end of the oven, they have a bin, if you will, that's got a little heater under it, whatever, keeping it warm, full of the sauce. And so when it comes out the other end, they put the sauce on the top.
Why?
And then they put the little Barbie table in the middle. And put it in
the
a box.
Barbie table.
Yeah.
So why do they put the sauce on the top?
It's physics.
Are they just trying to be like cool?
No.
Like,
'cause
we're
physics.
different.
The cheese kind of
physics.
keeps it from...
Have you ever, you've seen this, I know I've done it, have you ever bitten into a slice of pizza and all the toppings fall off and slap you in the face? And it doesn't happen if you put the sauce on top.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It
They
sticks to that bread.
They
and,
solved the problem.
It's like an upside
by
down.
putting
I'll
the
have to
sauce on the
discuss
top.
this with my pizza expert after the show.
Yeah. Or just make a homemade pizza and put the sauce on top.
Sauce
See what
on
happens,
top.
right?
Yeah, I'll have to consult the committee first, but I'll think about it.
Do you need a triplicate form filled out?
It's a big process.
Do you have
Sounds
do
like
you have a
you're-
permit for that?
Yeah, do we need a license?
A license to do the
to test
pizza
this?
pizza research?
All right, so going back to this article about education in Chicago, the city's own accountability report card would later demonstrate that huge majorities of students in the city's worst schools, 75% in elementary and 95% in high school, failed to meet the state standards. 95% in high school
90. That's
failed to meet the state standards.
And I'm sure the state standards are pretty low. They're like, can you read? Can you tie your shoes?
Well, we know,
what's your name? Oh, you can pronounce your name? Okay, you pass.
we know from previous topics we've covered here on Free Talk Live that 1 in 5, 20%, right?
Yeah.
1 in 5 high school graduates
That means-
are functionally illiterate.
That means they graduated.
They got a
They have
freaking
a
diploma, but they're functionally illiterate. How do you get a diploma and be functionally illiterate?
I'm going to say something really mean, but I'm just going to go for it. These are the people that want $20 an hour to like work entry level positions. It's like you can't even read and write. We don't even know how you filled out the job application.
Call 1-800-ILLITERACY. Dial it right now. I can't figure that out.
Yeah. So at any rate, Chicago's own accountability report card would later demonstrate. Oh, we already read that. Things hardly improved during the pandemic, even though the Chicago public school system was spending roughly $28,000 per student.
Per student?
That's like college money.
Per student.
Jeez.
Partly
What are
thanks
they-
to federal bailout cash.
Wow. Dang, they got that much money? That sounds like a
Some
lot.
of
How many
those,
students are there? I mean, there must be like
There's a
millions.
There's
a billion.
A bunch. Just 30% of black students meet or exceed reading standards in the third grade, and the numbers fall to 14% for 11th graders,
Jeez.
according to data from the Illinois State Board of Education, the Chicago Tribune pointed out last year. Chicago schools clearly aren't getting the job done, but political leaders in the city have discovered a solution to the problem.
I know what it is.
Stop grading schools.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say more. They need more money.
Oh, well.
That's usually like, well, we need to put
I think they already tried the more money, and they're like, okay, so we ran out of money. What else can we do?
We covered a story last night, Peakless Mountaineer, Richie Rich, and myself on Free Talk Live about a police department in Denver that decided that it was going to create a new task force.
Oh.
It was called like FAST or something. It's some acronym,
right.
whatever. And this task force was going to go ahead and investigate all of the non-fatal shootings in Denver, like immediately, like as soon as they happen. What does this tell you? This tells you that they don't do that already. Right.
Yeah,
Like Denver figured out, like, okay, we need to create this thing, and we need to get these like really focused detectives on this special committee to go out and investigate these things so that we can solve these non-fatal shootings faster. And guess what? If they dedicated some time and some resources and some education and like made it a priority to go and investigate these things lickety split, guess what? They figured it out. They closed more cases and arrested more people. It took us getting to this point for somebody to go, well, maybe if we just did our supposed jobs in the first frickin' place, we'd have better results.
It's wild.
It's unbelievable.
So at any rate, Chicago schools aren't getting the job done. I personally don't give a lot of attention to grades, Mayor Brandon Johnson said during a recent interview.
Let's go, Brandon.
Obviously not. Your schools are failing. Nice. How do you grade a system when the system has not fulfilled its basic obligation of providing an equitable system that speaks to the needs of students? Wow, that's just a bunch of gibberish. Mr. Johnson went on to explain the better way to evaluate Chicago's school system.
Geez, did he graduate from the school system? Is that how probably the author of the article probably did.
He says, my responsibility is not simply to just grade the system, but to fund the system, he said. That's how I'm ultimately going to grade whether or not our public school system is working, based upon the investments that we make to the people who rely on it. Never
Teachers,
mind
unions.
Never mind, evaluating, how your teachers are actually educating your students. 603-283-6160. Is public school failing you or your children? Give us a call.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by that treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with a roundup of the biggest headlines this past week, a week in which the war in the Middle East intensified. Israel began, then sustained its ground offensive into Gaza, the Palestinian territory led by Hamas, the militant group which killed around 1,400 people in an attack in Israel almost a month ago. Israel's since launched a bombing campaign in the enclave. The health ministry there says the death toll is roughly 10,000. The week ended with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Tel Aviv, his second visit in a matter of weeks, where he pushed for a humanitarian pause to allow additional aid into Gaza. He reiterated that the United States remains in solidarity with Israel, but stressed that more needs to be done to protect civilians.
As Israel conducts its campaign to defeat Hamas, how it does so matters, because it's the right and lawful thing to do. Failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas and other terror groups. This is what binds us as human beings. I've seen images, too, of Palestinian children, young boys and girls, pulled from the wreckage of buildings. When I see that, when I look into their eyes through the TV screen, I see my own children. How can we not?
Israel has ruled out a ceasefire unless Hamas releases hundreds of hostages, dozens of whom are abducted children still held in the Strip. More than 1,000 people, including some wounded and many foreign nationals, have managed to cross the border into Egypt after it opened for the first time since the conflict erupted. Displacement globally. Pakistan's started deporting thousands of undocumented migrants, mostly Afghans, after the deadline for voluntary deportation came to an end. Thousands of refugees have already been deported through the border crossing with Afghanistan. The Taliban has condemned the decision and called it inhumane. Priyata Bajabasi reports.
As Pakistan begins the forceful deportation of thousands of Afghans, many of them who have called Pakistan home for decades say they have nothing to go back to. Others say they're terrified to be heading back to a Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. Over the past month, Pakistan has expelled more than 100,000 Afghan migrants. Taliban said the Pakistani government must halt the expulsion of immigrants, adding Afghans should not be penalized for bilateral tensions between Islamabad and Kabul. Pakistan claims it is acting to protect national security following a sharp rise in terror attacks after Taliban's takeover.
The US and China are among countries that signed a declaration to work together to tackle the risks posed by artificial intelligence. Attending a summit in the UK, they agreed that AI brings the potential for catastrophic harm to humanity, but stopped short of calling for international regulation. In other news, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have been in court this week, testifying that they had no involvement with documents that a judge ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two brothers, together with their father, former President Donald Trump, are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets in order to secure better loans. Here's Jody Jacobs.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones who assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance. Email proof was presented in court, which painted a different picture, but neither vouched for the accuracy of the documents in question. Trump himself is set to testify on Monday, the latest in many court appearances for the former president.
Another trial. The founder of failed cryptocurrency exchange FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, was found guilty of fraud and money laundering. From the tech heartland of San Francisco, Ira Spitzer has the details.
It's a stunning fall from grace for the 31-year-old former tech billionaire who once ran one of the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchanges. FTX's bankruptcy led to 7 charges for Sam Bankman-Fried, with federal prosecutors accusing him of stealing billions of dollars of customers' money. During the trial in Manhattan, which lasted almost a month, Bankman-Fried maintained he made large mistakes but had acted in good faith. Bankman-Fried's sentencing is due to take place on March 28th. He faces up to 110 years in prison.
I'm Benji Hire. That was your Week in Review.
A new report from the National Center for Education shows that an alarming 10% of U.S. high school students graduate without basic object permanence skills. According to the study, a growing number of American seniors are lagging behind their international counterparts when it comes to the crucial knowledge that things don't just disappear if you're not looking at them.
Because it exists even if your eyes can't see it. Am I making sense?
No. U.S. high schoolers have dropped to 17th in science, 25th in math, and a troubling 180th place in the basic cognitive awareness most humans develop as toddlers. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan is asking Congress to fund increased after-school disguise and reveal programs.
It's time to get the kids excited to learn the most obvious mental concepts that make us capable of functioning.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do better. It's just I don't know how I'm supposed to learn anything if I don't even have a teacher.
I'm still here, Vanessa.
Some educators worry that too much focus placed on object permanence might take away from other important skills, such as not touching hot things that could burn you.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. We are back. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening tonight. The telephone number, if you'd like to join us in conversation, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain,
Steve Classic,
and Nikki.
Before we go on, I want to ask all of you listeners for a favor. I would like you to visit AriaDemezzo.com, and on that page, she has instructions for how you can write to her, send her stuff, put money on her books, that kind of stuff. As you know, Aria is currently serving a prison sentence in federal prison.
Boo.
Sentence.
For the crime of not having a license whilst selling cryptocurrency.
For the crime of no crime.
Right, yeah. No victims at all, period. So, and also, too, while your writing hand is out, while you've got your quill and your ink bottle, you can
your
also...
parchment.
Yeah, in your parchment. You can also visit freekeen.com, and there's a post there with some information on how to write to Mr. Ian Freeman, who is also currently kidnapped by the federal government. He has been convicted. He was sentenced, and now he's awaiting some sort of additional hearing for something about restitution.
Yeah, do we know when that is? Any word on that? I keep forgetting to ask Bonnie.
I want to say it's...
I feel like she's the gal to ask.
I want to say it's soon, but I don't know the exact date.
Because he's been in there for like a month already, or more.
Yeah. I want to say it's soon, but I don't remember the date.
Yeah.
So we'll try and keep you all posted on when that is and make an announcement here on Free Talk Live.
Also, Aria is almost halfway done her prison sentence, factoring in the good time. Yep. So there's some
the good times.
There's some, even though she's not having a good time.
Yeah. Good time.
Good times,
there's some sort of good time calculator that she has used to kind of
course
make an
there is.
assumption.
GED, right? You get your GED, and then you can Someone,
I
we
think
had a
she already
caller.
has one of those,
Right,
so I don't think she.
We had a caller, the guy from Atlanta. I
Yeah,
think,
you can
or
get your
Georgia.
GED,
Yeah, if
your
you,
GED in federal prison, and then you do all these other classes.
and you
too.
get you get time reduced.
Yep,
Yeah.
from doing all these classes, and it's like all like dumb stuff. Like I forget, she was telling me what classes she was taking, but they were all like sounded really stupid. And she's like, "Yeah, it's just a complete joke." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you just do it just so you can, get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But
According to a Crypto 6 updates chat that I am in, somebody has copied and pasted. I think this is Mr. Penguin. Notice the restitution hearing for Ian has been set for December 19th, 2023 at 10 a.m.
Really, December 19th?
Yep.
So he's staying in not Concord, wherever he is. Merrimack.
Yeah.
That's kind of a long time because I guess while he's there, he doesn't get any of the good time.
No, I think he
right?
does.
He
Yeah.
does?
Yeah, I think he does. He's still
Arya
a
thought
federal,
that he didn't for some
He's still
reason.
a federal prisoner.
Yeah, she said for some reason she thought that until he was like at the camp or wherever he's going, like the actual federal establishment.
Maybe. She might know more than I do.
I don't
I'm
know
sure.
where she got that information from. I don't know. But
She's probably studying it in one of her classes.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
You know?
But
it's not uncommon for, you've ever heard of a jailhouse lawyer?
yeah.
Right? It's not uncommon for a federal prisoner, particularly with a long sentence, to go to school within the prison system and become an attorney, pass the bar,
Yeah.
right? All that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And then, later on represent themselves in any, ongoing like appeals hearings and stuff
It
like
doesn't
that.
seem like the people that she's with are doing that.
No, probably not.
I think most of them aren't really that sort of, scholar.
Oh, no.
But
I shouldn't have looked at this.
yeah.
So, at any rate, we were talking about the Chicago school system, who decided that just like that, by simply grading schools by the funding they receive instead of their actual performance, the CPS, that's their rating system, goes from one of the worst school districts in the United States to one of the best.
Just by how much money they get. That's
Wait,
awesome.
It says if you grade these schools by funding, it's a different story, of course. Per student funding at Chicago Public Schools is now approaching, CPS stands for Chicago Public Schools. Per student funding at Chicago Public Schools is now approaching $30,000 per student. That's nearly double the national average of $14,347.
Yeah, so how does that make them better?
Well, they get more money.
Doesn't that make them worse?
Well, see, here's the problem. Chicago schools are getting rated poorly. So in order for them to discontinue being rated poorly, they're just going to stop rating them.
And just give them more money. And the more money they get, the better the school is. Right? Come on. That's the new it's fuzzy
That's
math.
what this
I don't
is.
know.
Indeed, in this paradigm that has brought us failed bureaucratic education system America sees today, more than 30 years ago, John Hood, the author and president of the John W. Pope Foundation, explained why government was wholly unsuited to teach America's students and predicted U.S. schools would continue to decline despite steadily increasing government spending. When every call for fundamental change in American education is rebutted not by arguments about student achievement, but by arguments focusing on race, class, social mixing, and other social concerns, it is difficult to imagine any real progress.
This is why people are homeschooling.
Oh, good. They do mention it. When teachers spend much of their day filling out forms, teaching quasi-academic subjects mandated from above, and boosting students' self-esteem as contrasted with self-respect, which is not earned rather than worked up, learning is difficult, if not impossible. Mr. Hood had gleaned the same truth the famous educator John Taylor Gatto had learned. Mr. Gatto, the Teacher of the Year in New York State in 1991, and author,
God bless you,
of Dumbing Us Down. Sorry, there was a sneeze there for those of you not paying attention.
Dumbing Us Down. I want to read that.
Oh, John Taylor Gatto is one of my favorite people. He's dead now, sadly. But he is a multiple Teacher of the Year winner in the New York public school system. People would take him and drop him into a failing school system, and he would figure out how to teach the kids. Now, he didn't do it in the way government wanted you to do it, right? He actually figured out how people learn and then just sort of allowed kids to pursue what they were interested in. And guess what?
Wow,
They learned. They did better. Yeah, weird, huh? Mr. Gatto, Teacher of the Year in New York State, 91, and author of Dumbing Us Down, understood it wasn't bad teachers or lack of funds responsible for America's failing schools. It's the system itself, which is built on coercion, bureaucracy, and obedience instead of actual learning, discovery, and collaboration with families. So
That says it right there.
There's more to this article. We'll post the whole thing for you up on our social website if you want to check it out. But we want to move on to, let's go with this from NBCConnecticut.com. .com. Tiny homes built to house the homeless in New Haven are vacated due to code violations.
This story is, and
this isn't the first time we've heard this story. This is the first time we've heard it from this particular
didn't this happen in
city,
Keene?
this particular, right?
Yeah.
But like this happens over and over
Right.
again.
Yeah.
Some people go, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of homeless people. Let's build them some homes.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good thing to
tiny
do.
home,
Right.
a room, something, right?
Yeah.
Let's put some shelter over these people
Right.
at least, right? And then the state comes along and is like, no. These are too small, or,
Right.
And it's just crazy to be like, oh, code violations. Code violations? They were homeless. Does
Right.
it matter if there's code? They
Right.
were living in a tent with like a heater in there before. Like, how is.
A big
that-
lighter.
You know what I mean?
A
Like
candle
it's-
was heating them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tiny homes are being built to house homeless people in New Haven, Connecticut, but they're being vacated because of code violations, according to city officials.
Officials. That's I hate
Yeah.
that word. Officials.
Yeah. Also, I don't when I'm not on the air and I say the word city officials, I pronounce it like Sean Connery.
Ah.
Right.
Shit. Shit.
That's a dump. That's
Still
a dump.
wasn't me.
I said
Wasn't
she.
Yeah, that's right. I dumped it.
I said
Fine.
She Talk
Safe.
Live. I was still going to say She Talk Live.
She talk live.
Why did you baited me with that?
Perhaps I did.
Yes, you did.
In a letter from the New Haven Building Department, officials said an inspection of the 203 Rosette Street property revealed several code violations related to the construction of several pallet shelters. So I guess these tiny homes were built. They don't look like
pallets?
they're built on pallets, but maybe they were. Maybe they were built on pallets for easy moving, right? So in case the city came in and was like, "You can't be here," like, okay, we'll move
you.
over here. Right?
Yeah.
But no, instead they said, "Oh, you violated code. No home for you."
Also, like, what code? You know, it was clearly up to their code.
Officials say.
Officials. Quote unquote official. Air quotes.
Yeah, officials say specific violations include solid fuel heating sources without smoke or CO2 detection, as well as the absence of sanitation or utility services, including electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, according to building officials. So they had a room, basically. Right?
Right. Better than their tent.
Yeah.
Or a cardboard box.
Yeah. With, an actual roof, right? The wind's not going to blow it down, right? Nobody can huff and puff.
Well, they didn't get electricity, so they can't pay Eversource their monthly bill.
The city notes that permits were not obtained.
The horror. No permits?
Oh, my gosh. To construct these homeless shelters, which are being built on behalf of a homeless advocate. People on the property were ordered to vacate immediately until proper permits are obtained and approval is granted.
So how do you think homeless people are going to afford a permit? Like, that costs money, right? Like, all these, and building a home up to code and paying for the land, like all this stuff, like all of those things cost money.
You can't have a home, Nikki, unless you've paid.
So what, they'll just die? I mean, like, that's the kind, like,
This is the cold reality of what government is and what it does.
Yeah.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Get a permit. That's what's important.
Get a permit or die. Right?
Back to being, you have a little home, you don't have a permit? Oh, back to being homeless.
Yeah. People on the property were ordered to vacate immediately until the proper permits are obtained and approval is granted.
Oh, granted.
A notice from the city's plan department. They just have one plan.
The plan
department.
The plan.
A notice from the city's plan department says there are concerns, quote, for the health and well-being of the city's most vulnerable residents.
Sure.
So they're kicking them back out on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the thing too. So like homelessness is an issue in many cities.
It is.
Right?
Yes.
So people like to come up, okay, you don't like the homeless people panhandling or whatever they do, trashing the woods. So people try to come up with ideas. How can we help them? How can we at the very least get them off the streets so we don't have to look at them?
Right.
And government gets in the way of every single solution.
Well, and they make it worse.
And they make it worse
Well,
for them.
they create the problem.
Exactly.
They don't even offer a solution.
Because none of these people would be homeless if they could just build themselves little huts.
I remember
You know?
I was working some, Joe job in the Seattle area, and I was looking for an affordable apartment for myself. And every time I would find one, I didn't qualify because
You didn't get the permit?
I made too much money.
Oh.
Yep.
Right? I made too much money to be able to afford an affordable apartment.
It's tough being in that little middle spot where it's like
So many
you
people.
make too much money
Yeah.
to get benefits, but you don't make enough money to survive.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't work.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to you're better off not working and getting the benefits.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to work.
Part of the reason that I moved so often over my 22 years that I spent in the Seattle area, I think I moved 8 times, 9 times, something like that.
Do you have a lot of friends with
more.
vans and pickup trucks? No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
After that third move.
Ran out of pizza and beer.
Yeah.
But the reason that I moved so frequently was because what they call gentrification was happening all throughout Seattle, and that is, somebody
Someone
come
buy the house or
somebody come into the
apartment
neighborhood, demolish some business and then build condos.
Right.
And so because they did that, all the rents in the area would go up immediately.
everyone's
And then I'm like, well, I can't afford this. I better find a new apartment. And so it's weird that I ended up in the city of Seattle itself as my last place that I had in that area, because it seemed like I had to get further and further away from the city to get cheaper and cheaper rent.
Really?
Right.
But going into
the city was prohibitively expensive. I got lucky on the last apartment that I rented. Me and the owner of the building just sort of hit it off. I was the first guy to come and see it after it was put up for rent.
Oh, cool.
After he put the ad up. And I was like, I'll come over right now. He's like, well, I'm there right now. How long will it take you? I'll be there in 10 minutes, right?
Cool.
And went over, and I was the first guy met. He is he owns multiple properties in the Seattle, so this is what he does, right?
Right.
And so I got to learn a few things from him about buying property and managing, and what the margins are, and what market price is, and all that kind of fun stuff. So it was pretty cool in that respect. But he was like, this particular property was paid off a long time ago, so everything that I get from you is gravy. That's why the price is what it is.
Oh, that's nice.
Right? And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I'm like, I can afford it. And he's like, sweet.
Now you're the property manager too on the weekends.
Well, yeah.
Get out there and cut the lawn.
Yeah, but it was interesting that I ended up in the city proper,
right?
For the last apartment that I had in that
Which
area.
you think was the most expensive?
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It was small, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't, I don't know, it was probably maybe 500 square feet, if that, right? So, but for a 1-bedroom in the city, that was, and we're talking I think it was $1,200 or something. For a 1-bedroom, which is you can't even get a studio for $1,200 now in any big city, really, if you think about it. And if you can, get it.
Yeah. In New Haven, forget it.
Yeah.
That's why they're all homeless.
And we talked about the notice for the health and well-being of the city's most vulnerable residents. We must kick them out of these tiny homes where they could see an increase in their health and well-being by simply having a place to go.
I mean, that is just the ultimate government stupidity right there.
I mean, they were kind of asking for it because they should have just got the permit.
This final sentence of this article says, officials said they need the shelters that have already been built to be taken down. They are also ordering any further construction to stop until further notice.
I mean,
it's crazy.
Your benevolent government.
Yeah.
Just
just here to help.
You're trying to help some people. I'm sure these homeless people are like, yeah, please let me in. Right? May I please have one of these tiny homes to sleep in?
Right.
I'm sure.
Nope. Destroy them.
Yeah. No. Not only kick them out,
and give them nowhere to go, put them on the street, right? Making the problem worse, right? But then destroy the things that were built instead of just figuring out, hey, what do they need to do? Can they just, because it's a temporary thing, figuring out what they need to do to make it conform with code.
Yeah, no, and that's a big government bureaucracy thing where they get so butthurt that these people didn't ask for permission in the first place, that there's nothing you can do to fix it. The only solution that they will accept is you have to tear this thing down, then ask for permission, and then rebuild it. Because it's too late. You already peeved them off.
Right. Contribute to the mayor's campaign, and we'll see if we can get that done.
Yeah. So, government, thanks, but no thanks. You're not doing humanitarian work, and I wish...
Yeah. Thanks for ruining everything and making everything worse. Appreciate you.
There are so many people who feel that... the tax money that is taken from them, you don't pay it, they take it from you. Mm-hmm. There are so many people who feel that that's some sort of charity work. Oh, we have people for that. We have people for that, right? Oh, well, I pay my taxes because I care about the homeless, Steve. Oh, really? Because you care about the homeless, that's why you pay taxes? Take a look at what your taxes do for the homeless. They do that. They kick them out.
Right.
They make
Tear
them
it down.
And make the problem. If they exacerbate the problem, they make it worse.
Right. They created the problem. They can't even give you a solution. Well, maybe they can keep throwing more money at it.
It's ridiculous. It's goddamn ridiculous, is what it is. All right. At any rate, there's something, I think it's called the Big Mac Index. There's a financial term where they use the price of a Big Mac to sort of, as a barometer to see how's the economy doing, right? This from the New York Post.
It's the most American thing I've ever heard.
Right, yeah, the Big Mac indicator.
Right, it's not the stock market that talks about the economy. It's the price of a Big Mac.
Oh my gosh.
The cost of the Big Mac.
Continue.
So
there's another Connecticut story, I think.
Is it?
This is our
We're
third.
having a big Connecticut day.
This is a hat trick for the
Wow.
Connecticut stories.
I wonder if it's because somebody who gave us this show prep is a former Connecticuter.
Well, some of mine were Connecticut too.
Connecticuters.
I am a New Englander though, so
Connecticutonian, Connecticut tonight.
A nutmegger. They're Connecticut people are called nutmeggers.
Wow.
Nutmeggers.
Why?
I don't know.
It's like the spice.
So it's called the Nutmeg State. So.
Oh.
Yeah. It's the land of steady habits.
It's really called the Nutmeg State?
Yeah. The Nutmeg State.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, I'm lost here.
That really had.
All right.
That
So
really,
we had the mushroom
caught
guy
you
in Burlington, Connecticut. We got the New Haven, Connecticut tiny house thing, and then the Big Mac story originated out of Darien, which is near Stamford, right on the 95 corridor.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The $18 Big Macs.
Oh yeah, so
He's recapping for us.
Well, can't recap something that hasn't been said first.
I'm pre-capping.
Pre-capping. Yes, there you go.
Pre-capping the story.
Well, now the captain's going to post-cap. This from NewYorkPost.com.
The New York Compost.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. McDonald's revenue soars as it hikes menu prices. $18 Big Macs.
That's inflation.
So this is interesting because people always say, "Oh, I would eat healthy, but it's so expensive." But you're going to pay $18. I mean, you can go to a restaurant and get an $18 burger.
You can.
You know what I mean? Obviously, and to me, that's still expensive. You used to be able to go to a burger, get a burger for $10 or whatever.
And
but
a Big Mac,
don't tell me a Big Mac. You can go to the grocery store right now, get the cheapest ground beef. Get a thing of you can make 10 of these for $18 or more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do we?
You
But
might not get
it's
the
too expensive. I have to eat McDonald's because I'm poor.
Yeah,
No,
you
you're
probably-
eating McDonald's because you're addicted to it.
Right.
It's
convenient.
fine. Just go to rehab and eat some broccoli and steak or whatever.
McDonald's on Monday reported that its revenue was up 14% in the latest quarter. A surge, the burger giant said, was driven by strategic menu price increases. We'll find out more about the Golden Arches, their price hikes, and what it means to you coming up still tonight here on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
The Onion looks back at This Week in History. On July 21st, 2007, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the final installment in the widely popular Harry Potter series, was released, as excited fans all over the world eagerly flipped to the book's final pages to find out if Harry and Lord Voldemort finally
Author J.K. Rowling had already succeeded in creating one of the most popular literary franchises of all time. And of course, much of that success was owed to the expertly crafted sexual tension that steadily built up between the series' protagonist, schoolboy wizard Harry Potter, and the Dark Lord Voldemort. Everyone in the country wanted to know whether or not they would and if they did how many times would they and who would be who.
And that was what happened this week in history. In the words of Mother Teresa, if there is one lesson to learn from the past, it's that no matter what you do, there will always be a bunch more crippled dying kids.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with a roundup of the biggest headlines this past week, a week in which the war in the Middle East intensified. Israel began, then sustained its ground offensive into Gaza, the Palestinian territory led by Hamas, the militant group which killed around 1,400 people in an attack in Israel almost a month ago. Israel's since launched a bombing campaign in the enclave. The health ministry there says the death toll is roughly 10,000. The week ended with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Tel Aviv, his second visit in a matter of weeks, where he pushed for a humanitarian pause to allow additional aid into Gaza. He reiterated that the United States remains in solidarity with Israel, but stressed that more needs to be done to protect civilians.
As Israel conducts its campaign to defeat Hamas, how it does so matters, because it's the right and lawful thing to do. Failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas and other terror groups.
Israel has ruled out a ceasefire unless Hamas releases hundreds of hostages, dozens of whom are abducted children still held in the Strip. More than 1,000 people, including some wounded and many foreign nationals, have managed to cross the border into Egypt after it opened for the first time since the conflict erupted. Displacement globally. Pakistan's started deporting thousands of undocumented migrants, mostly Afghans, after the deadline for voluntary deportation came to an end. Thousands of refugees have already been deported through the border crossing with Afghanistan. The Taliban has condemned the decision and called it inhumane. Priyata Bajabasi reports.
As Pakistan begins the forceful deportation of thousands of Afghans, many of them who have called Pakistan home for decades say they have nothing to go back to. Others say they're terrified to be heading back to a Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. Taliban said the Pakistani government must halt the expulsion of immigrants. Pakistan claims it is acting to protect national security.
In other news, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. had been in court this week, testifying that they had no involvement with documents that a judge ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two brothers, together with their father, former President Donald Trump, are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets in order to secure better loans. Here's Jody Jacobs.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. Trump himself is set to testify on Monday, the latest in many court appearances for the former president.
I'm Benji Haya. That was your week in review.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Back is where we are. It's the final segment of this Sunday night edition of Free Talk Live, in case you're wondering what the heck you're listening
What
to.
this is. Yeah.
What am I? My radio is doing weird things. No. We
That's
are doing
just
the
us.
weird
Sing
things.
along.
Yes. Your radio's fine. It's us that are weird. The telephone number, if you want to join us, is 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Steve McClassic.
And Mick and Nicky.
Captain McKickass.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Golden Arches, we've been talking about this story from the New York Post. McDonald's revenues soar as it hikes menu prices. $18 Big Macs.
It's kind of funny. When you say revenues soar, it makes it seem like they're selling more, but they're not. They just increased
Selling
all
the
their
same,
prices.
yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, they're selling less, probably.
But the revenue is
The
soaring.
revenue is soaring.
Yeah.
Either that or they're sore from all the revenue they've been, McDonald's on Monday reported that its revenue was up 14%. The Golden Arches brought in a total of $6.69 billion in revenue for the 3-month period ending September 30th, beating expectations of $6.58 billion, according to Refinitiv Analysis.
What is that?
See, now I thought McDonald's made money on the land that the restaurants are on.
Why? Because of the franchise?
The franchising. They make money on
what do you mean?
franchising, not the food. So I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
That it's not about selling the food; it's about renting out or leasing out or selling franchises.
Well, and then
Well,
the people that
yes.
own the franchise make the money from the food?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So if they stay
I
in
guess
business,
that'd be how that works, right?
Yeah, I think it's like they're a real estate company.
Well, I mean, to an
In a
extent,
way.
any franchise is that.
Yeah, that's kind of how that
That's
works,
how
right?
franchising works,
Right,
right?
right.
You're a
Like,
guy,
own the
you're an
brand
entrepreneur,
and-
you want to open a thing, but you don't want to spend the time establishing your own marketing, your own branding, right? All that kind of stuff.
Right,
So
you got a big corporation behind
You
it. Yeah.
partner with a franchisee because they already have all that stuff. Now they loan you some money. You put some money down. They loan you some money to get your own thing up and running, but you use all of their branding and advertisement,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff, and then you split the
revenues.
the profits.
Well, do you think they're upping? They must be upping the price of the Big Mac based on.
Well, let's find out, shall we?
The captain continues.
The Golden Arches brought, we already said that. However, McDonald's, which has 13,513 restaurants in the U.S. and over 38,000 abroad. McDonald's has more restaurants abroad than they do in the U.S. That's interesting. They did not disclose how much the franchisor has increased its prices, which generally vary between locations. One branch in Darien, Connecticut, charged as much as
$18.
$18 for a Big Mac.
Wow.
Let's
That's
be clear, not just for the sandwich. It was for the combo meal, which includes a medium fry and a medium soft drink.
Wow,
I mean, how much do fries cost?
you get 35
$2?
French fries and
potatoes are cheap,
right? And a 5-cent
and the way
drink.
they do them,
And
it's
their
even-
vegetable oil. Yuck.
Meanwhile, the same Big Mac combo will run hungry patrons $13.69 at a McDonald's in Times Square, New York.
What? How many? What number did you say? How much?
$13.69.
Okay.
Plus tax,
$13.69.
I mean, that's probably how much it
Times
is
Square.
in Key. I wonder how much does I'll do some field research. Hang on.
If
Ask the
only
magic
there
right
were a device with
That you
which you could look these things up. If only it was square, a magic rectangle. if you
magic-
will.
Technically, it's not square.
That's why I said magic rectangle. At any rate, while you're doing that, let's go to some of your calls and thoughts. We've got Major Payne calling from Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey guys.
Hey.
As far as the McDonald's thing goes, they not only make money off the rental to the franchisee, they got the same deal going that Domino's does. You got to buy all your product from them.
Right.
So that's
Which I believe
They-
is what Cisco, SYSCO. I think that's the McDonald's.
Yeah,
supplier.
you can't buy from a competitive
Right. Yeah.
it's one source supplier.
Yeah.
Right.
they've got their own farms and bakeries and distribution units, throughout the damn country. So
Hey, I just
They
figured
make
out
the
that
money hand over fist on that one.
the person we're talking to on the phone is Mayor McPayne. Or Major McPayne.
Major McPayne.
Yeah, Major McPayne.
McMajor.
Welcome to the McShow, Major.
I used to be the Hamburglar, and then I broke out.
All right. So what else did you want to say?
Oh, I got something on your number 2 story.
Wow.
My old man,
Be careful
seemed
now.
like he had a hollow leg. And
Okay.
he had a bad habit of not taking a dump but every other day.
Okay.
So we used to make jokes that he was the last Irish logger because he produced his own. But we had, well, they didn't have what we call the poo knife, but we just took a good stiff coat hanger and grab it by the hook and grab it in the middle of the flat spot, pull it,
You mean
make it into a big long kind of hoop thing, and it made a dandy turd cutter.
You mean a
Good to know.
a Mick cutter?
You know, I've heard of this before where doctors will like prescribe, like if their patient's really constipated, they're like, get a small McDonald's fry. And then the patient's like, what are you talking about? You're a doctor. You're supposed to tell me not to eat McDonald's.
Right.
And they're like, no, nothing's worked. Miralax, Senna, all these things, Ducalax, nothing's worked for you.
Castor oil.
Castor oil. Go get a McDonald's fry.
Really?
And then they call him back and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe it."
Just blew me right out. Huh?
Really?
I've heard 3 people tell me this.
McDonald's fries as colon blow.
That's
No,
that's what
super
they.
colon
That's what my
Like,
sources tell
now,
me.
I ate a whole bunch of McFood growing up, right? Like the McMenu, like particularly the dollar menu, was like my go-to
Yeah.
in my teens and 20s.
Were you regular?
You know, very. Yeah.
Exactly.
But like not excessive.
No, it not
You know?
excessive, but like if you, regular.
Wow.
So you have to go there for lunch every day, and then in the morning, those French fries
Yeah.
will do it.
Yeah, I
And
don't
then
know
in
that I
a
was
few
going every
years,
day,
you'll
but-
have a heart attack.
Yeah.
We did. A friend of mine, when he turned 28, he was a big fan of the McCheeseburger, and so when he turned 28, me and my other friend went
No.
to McDonald's and we bought him 28 cheeseburgers.
Wow.
That was when
And
they
a-
were $1,
and
though,
a-
right?
Yeah, they were less than that. They were the
49 cents,
49.59.
49.
Oh,
yeah.
That's before my
49.59.
time.
59 cents.
49-cent hamburgers, 59-cent cheeseburgers. And so we bought him 28 and then bought him a keg of ketchup because he loved to dip his burgers in Heinz ketchup or whatever, Heinz, whoever
Yeah.
makes the Keggo ketchup.
Right.
And
He ate 28 of
well,
those?
to his credit or discredit, I'm not sure. First of all, he was very thankful because he's like, dude, I love McDonald's. Oh, and you got a keg of ketchup too? Awesome, right? He wasn't the healthiest person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
but,
clearly.
But no, what he did is he ate several of them. Right?
He ate 27 of them. He
No,
saved
I think
one.
he ate like
It's still
6
around.
or something like that, you know, and dipping them in the ketchup. But then he got some of these Ziploc bags and started putting 2 of them in and chucked them in the freezer. And then he would just sort of like, you know, in the morning, set one out. And then when he got home from work or whatever, he would take the patty off, nuke the patty only, right? And then put it back into the bun, right? And then enjoy, you know, and dip
So-
his burger in the ketchup.
I did some research. Big Mac meal.
I'm sorry, you
is-
did some Mick research.
Mick research, yeah.
What did you Mick find?
$14.39
In Keene, New Hampshire.
in
For a
Keene,
Big
New
Mac
Hampshire.
combo meal.
And yep, and then the regular Big Mac is $8.19.
Wow.
Double cheeseburgers $5.79.
Wait.
The quarter pounder meal is more. Oh, that's a deluxe meal. For
What-
the double quarter
What makes
cheese
it
deluxe meal is $16.89.
Wow.
What's the difference between a combo meal and a deluxe combo meal?
I'm assuming maybe it's just large instead of medium.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You get lettuce? Maybe lettuce,
You do.
tomato? I don't think you get that on a quarter
Yeah,
pounder.
well.
It's just onion.
Spicy McCrispy $7.89.
All right. Let's stop Mick advertising for these guys. Mick Major.
Well, you remember when they used to say, "Would you like that supersize?"
Oh,
yeah, they can't do that anymore. Did you ever?
Yeah, you can get large fries and a large Coke for like an extra quarter or some damn thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Potatoes don't cost nothing. Carbonated water don't cost nothing.
Right.
Coke syrup hardly costs anything. I mean, that's where they make their big money on.
Oh, definitely.
They probably
Soda.
lose
Yeah.
money on beef products.
Yeah.
Well, they don't lose it, obviously, with $8 Big Macs,
Yeah.
a couple of $8 burgers.
And
They
they-
made a
I think that's-
documentary, Super Size Me.
Oh, yeah.
Where the dude,
Yeah.
I forget for how
He
long.
ate it for a month, I think.
Yeah,
So
something
for a
like
whole
that.
month. That's all he
For
ate was McDonald's.
all
Every day,
3 meals.
all 3 meals.
And also,
crazy.
McDonald's reuses their fry later grease to make biodiesel for their trucks.
Oh, that's cool.
It's kind of a cool thing.
That actually is cool.
Yeah.
No, there's people who have converted Volkswagen.
Yeah, a friend of mine had one. He used to get the
Volkswagens.
Chinese food.
Yeah, you
It's
could do that.
it's just
and they run around trying to,
stinks.
trying to gather up, used grease from
Right.
mom and pop restaurants or
Right.
whatever. And like if you drive behind one of these, it does smell
It does
delicious.
smell. It's started the thing up. It smells like a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, or French fries or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but somebody I knew once upon a time had an old International Scout, an old 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
And it was converted over to run on vegetable oil or, donut grease or whatever. So they were always looking for a grease vat to go drain, and it would smell like donuts or French fries.
Yeah.
Or
Whatever happened to be cooked in the
Yeah.
grease. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Hey, Major, thanks for the call. We appreciate you, brother. Moving right along, let's go to, I believe this is David calling. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, how are you? Yeah, it's funny. I was big into biodiesel there a few years ago, and I thought McDonald's grease had some weird additive that made biodiesel bad for it.
It might.
It might have been too much sugars. It might have been the sugars in the grease.
Maybe they did that just so that only McDonald's could recycle it and use it only in their vehicles.
Because do they do that present day where they're using the biodiesel?
I have no idea.
I just heard about that.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with it, so it's possible that they've changed the formula.
I'll ask the
like
Magic
you're
Rectangle.
saying, maybe for their own fleet, they've done it for that. Because out here in San Francisco, and this is 15, maybe even 20 years ago, our buses, I don't know that any of our buses run on petroleum diesel. Almost all of them are biodiesel. San Francisco is famous for having so many restaurants. I think we've got like 20,000 restaurants, and all of that grease. Since we're a peninsula, we don't have the landfill to be able to just dump in it. We have to pay extra to haul it, 50 miles or whatever. So the city was encouraged to develop biodiesel so that the fleet of buses would be able to, help balance the budget, so to speak.
Right.
The reason I called, though, in the last, and maybe I'll tie it to what you were just talking about with the price of a hamburger. Out here in San Francisco, I work down in the convention center, and since that's the high tourist area, hamburgers are very expensive. Probably a $17 burger is about normal for one of the chains down there. But you can get a $10 one that is far superior. It's organic beef, and it's about $10, and I might have, with tax, it might come to $11 or $12. But
you mean theft?
It's pretty insane, and to imagine that a fast food joint would pretend that $17 or even $14 is normal for out in the middle of the country. I mean, we're talking about the tourist area here, not
right.
It's famous for gigging the tourists, and to imagine that McDonald's thinks that it can pretend that it can justify a $14 burger. But it crossed my mind that if this call for raising the minimum wage has, justified McDonald's to do a sort of a self-sabotage, to pretend that they have to pay a $15 an hour minimum wage, which justifies a $17 hamburger, well, I can one-up them even better. I'm baby boom. In 1968, it took you exactly 20 hours at minimum wage to buy 1 ounce of gold. The ounce of gold was $1.60, or excuse me, the minimum wage was $1.60,
right.
and the ounce of gold was $32. Now that's exactly 20 hours. Now, if you were to look at the ounce of gold today, it's right at $1,000. $2,000. Which would put the minimum wage at $100.
Wow.
Not $15.
Right. Yeah.
So, if McDonald's thinks that they can play games with the price of a hamburger just to force the issue on a minimum wage.
Yeah, I don't know that they're blaming minimum wage for this rate increase. I don't know that they're not. we haven't gotten through the whole article, but it's an interesting perspective for sure. I know that inflation certainly is killing, well, just about everybody. When I shop, a significant increase in the cost of groceries has been noticed by me since I moved to New Hampshire year over year. Things just keep going up. And then, of course, I notice what they call shrinkflation.
Right.
Where they like sell you a package that looks about the same size as what you normally buy, but it's got less product in it.
I wonder how much that Big Mac probably 20 years ago was probably bigger. It's called Small Mac now. Or the less Big Mac.
Well, they've gone through different shapes and sizes, but yeah, I mean they were relative. And as a matter of fact, I think I remember the hamburgers of McDonald's, and I remember one of the first chains in St. Louis, which is where I'm from. I think it was 12 cents for a standard hamburger. The White Castles were 5 cents, and they went up to 7 cents. And McDonald's started at 12 cents, and that was actually at a time when it wasn't billions sold; it was hundreds of thousands sold.
Right? Yeah.
So I can remember early McDonald's.
You might remember this, David. There was a period of time when Burger King wanted to compete with McDonald's Quarter Pounder with cheese. And so I think it was Burger King anyway. I'm pretty sure
Hardee's, maybe?
No, I'm pretty sure it was Burger King. But anyway, the Quarter Pounder with cheese was selling like gangbusters. And so Burger King was like, we got to compete with that. Let's make our burger bigger. And so they went ahead and did that. And they released the 1/3 pounder. And nobody bought it. And nobody bought it because everybody thought that the Quarter Pounder was bigger than a 1/3 pounder.
Wah, wah.
They probably
Thank
all went.
you.
They went to the Chicago school district. Probably that's
This
Chicago
has been
math.
brought to you by the U.S. public school systems.
Chicago
Fractions
math.
are your friends.
David?
Well, in any case, yeah, just that cost of living is a big issue. Right? It really should be $100 an hour minimum wage in order to be able to buy a house. And when you think about it, I don't know if you're keeping up with this Trump New York fraud trial, but part of the issue out here in San Francisco of rent, it's gotten so bad that it's up to $6,000 a month just to be able to rent a 1-bedroom apartment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not a studio, a 1-bedroom.
Right.
And when you start looking at the $100 an hour minimum wage just to be able to afford a thing like that, that sort of makes sense. Although when you start looking at Trump fraud, he has forced the fraud of jacking up the value of land so high that nobody, including insurance companies, can afford to allow people
I don't know.
to
You
rent
can
a place.
blame that like on one guy, like it's Trump's fault. It's a combination of the Federal Reserve and the federal government. Keep listening, David, because I have something to say about the cost of housing. But thank you for the call. For the first time in history, you need to make 6 figures to afford a house in the U.S.
Yeah, pretty much.
The annual income needed to afford a house is now $111,000 per year, according to Reventure.
Is that to purchase or to rent?
To purchase.
Purchase.
A home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So you need. Meanwhile, the median household income in the U.S. is just $78,000, 30% below the threshold needed to buy a house. Just 3 years ago, in 2020, when I bought my house, you only needed $60,000 of annual income to afford a house.
What inflation?
In other words, the income required to own a home has risen by 85% in just 3 years. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you literally, and I'm speaking to our local area, so like New Hampshire and surrounding states, right? You can't find a house under $250,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not like a move-in ready house.
So if
you're using an FHA loan, right, you have to meet these certain requirements.
Yep, you got to qualify.
You got to qualify. Yeah, the house has to qualify, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
you got to qualify. House got to qualify. Right. The seller has to qualify.
Everybody
right?
has to qualify, right? Yeah. Good luck if you don't at least make $100,000.
So the income required to own a home has risen by 85% in just 3 years.
That's insane.
The gap between median income and the income needed to afford a house is 25% larger than it was in 2008.
Yeah. I believe
So
it.
back in 2008,
That's
when everybody
awful.
was all like freaking out about like,
Yeah.
all these real estate and, all these, anybody can buy a home, right? And all the funny things that they did with, chopping up the
5-1
mortgages
arms and
all that kind of
mortgage-backed
stuff.
securities.
It's actually 25% larger gap between median income and the income needed to buy a home.
Wow, thanks for the good news, Captain.
I know. That kind of makes me feel like a baller right now, though. I'm like, hey.
Got it under the radar.
But no, that actually is absolutely terrible. That's so awful.
So moving back to the Mick article, though he didn't specify how much, Borden, who's the CFO of McDonald's, said McDonald's expects to increase the cost of its menu items by just over 10% for the full year. The second consecutive annual 10% price hike.
Wow, so that burger's going to cost another $1.80 next year, that Big Mac, huh?
Yeah, so 14 would be a $16 burger.
$19.80.
The 18 would be $20.
It'd be a $20 Big Mac.
$20. 20 is the new 5, people.
That's right. 2 is the new 1.
Yeah, I remember, man, like, if your friend had a car and you didn't, you'd be like, dude, can I give you $5 for gas? You can run me over to this thing so I can go pick up a thing or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, man.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's like, hey, man, can I give you $20 for gas? Because I got to run over. And you're like, 20's a little low. I might need 40. Right?
And that was recently, too. The $5 for gas was like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, you're not talking about like, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this was like when I was in high school,
I mean,
it was like
I kind
$5
of
for
am
gas.
when, like, gas was like $1, 89 cents, right? $5 went a long way.
Yeah.
Right. Now, $20.
California, it's
right?
like $7 and some change.
Gallon. Hey, well, if you had a Tesla, you won't have to buy gasoline, okay?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but like I already can't
or you
afford
use-
a car payment.
Or you could use
so,
biodiesel like
you know.
McDonald's. So McDonald's does use, it says they use cooking oil from their kitchens into biodiesel. They turn it into biodiesel, which is then used to fuel around 42% of their delivery fleet.
It's pretty cool.
So I think that's it, I mean, where would that grease go anyway?
Yeah, I mean,
Where does it go after?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess what does it evaporate? I'm like, wait, where does gasoline go?
Burnt up. Yeah, it
Incinerate the
transduced from liquid to gas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, during an earnings call with the investors, CFO Ian Borden confirmed that the company's U.S. prices did increase in the third quarter. Meanwhile, many consumers have said that fast food has already gotten so expensive, it's no longer worth it. One Reddit user asked the now viral thread, what is no longer worth it because of how expensive it has become? The top-rated response, most fast food.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? The employees who are making minimum wage will be replaced by robots.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll be able to lower their prices because like you can go to the robot McDonald's and get a $12 Big Mac.
Right.
I mean, they should. No one wants to work there anyways. I mean, all these like fast food places around Keene and like a lot of other cities, they don't. I mean, this is a college town, and even like the college students don't want to work there. They're like too good for it.
The article goes on to say a value meal at McDonald's now costs just as much as a meal at a lot of sit-down restaurants, such as Applebee's, one user claimed. Remember when McMuffins were 2 for $3? Another user recalled.
Yeah, the good old days.
We are out of time. Thank you to all of our callers, all of our listeners. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Steve Classic, for joining me. You're welcome. If you missed any part of tonight's broadcast, please visit freetalklive.com and find the archives for a full repeat of the show. Thanks and peace.
Don't worry about things you can't control. Isn't that what they always say? But it's about impossible to avoid worrying about what's going on these days. The government has used the war on guns, the war on drugs, and the war on terrorism to tear our Bill of Rights to shreds. But you can fight back. The 10th Amendment Center has proven it, racking up major victories. For example, when the U.S. government claimed authority in the NDAA to have the military kidnap and detain Americans without trial, the nullifiers got a law passed in California, declaring the state's refusal to ever participate in any such thing. Their latest project is offnow.org, nullifying the National Security Agency. They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California